Oh my God, we're live. I've got people in the background waiting to go. Thrilled to see over 600 people here. That's amazing. This lineup is going to be insane. Things are probably going to get very hectic. If any of you are not familiar, and I'm quite sure that many of you will not be familiar with this stream, I've been doing it for a while, probably a year and a half to 2 years of every fortnightly Friday, having a lineup of amazing lawyers. And many of you may not be familiar with it, but I think you will really enjoy it. Now, because it gets crowded, there's going to be a little over talk, a little cross talk. It's a challenge to keep up with everything. Please indulge. It's fun. It's very memeable. I do exactly zero preparation for subjects because I depend on all the talent that's coming and all the hijinks to ensue. So please indulge us, be patient, and people may go in, they may go out. I mean, this stream is absolutely informal. It is meant to be fun. Super chat policy. Obviously, I love super chats. I will do my best to bring up super chats as they're going, but I may be just displaying them because it's already a challenge enough to stop a conversation or a flow. But when you have 6 to 8 people doing it at the same time, it can get kind of disruptive to the overall flow, but I will do my damnedest to make sure, even if it's later on, just going through every super chat I can. I will be doing that, and I appreciate it very much. And of course, I have to shill immediately. This is a relatively new channel. I had done these streams on my own channel, EricHunley, and have moved them to a whole separate channel. That way, it's more of a community ownership. So please consider subscribing if you like this. I really appreciate it. It does help. And of course, please drop that like. And I bring to you a bunch of lawyers.
What's up?
All right. So look at this. Oh my God. Where these people come from? Peter Tragos, I have never had you on before. How are you doing?
Happy to be here, man. Glad I could make it. Thanks for the invite.
Good to see you. Raw from Law and Lumber. It's been almost 12 hours. Yeah, something seriously. Like that. Awesome to have you. Nate, we were just on the phone earlier. Great to have you back. David, it's been even less than 12 hours. How are you doing?
12 hours. Oh, I'm tired and I'm cranky.
Good. By the way, those who watched the stream before, a tired, cranky Viva is a great Viva. Guaranteed.
We are so lucky.
And we have the immortal Joe. Good Logic Neerman.
How are you, my brothers? It is so great seeing each of you again.
How are you? How is the bar mitzvah?
How'd it go?
That was amazing. Technically, it's actually a month early. His actual bar mitzvah comes a month from now, but there's a rarely used concept of celebrating when he first starts putting on tefillin, which in English is phylacteries, which we use for prayer, and they practice doing that for a month. So seeing as his birthday comes in the middle of summer and his kids and his classmates are not going to be around, so we decided to give him to celebrate his bar mitzvah upon this event, which is technically a month early. So we'll actually be celebrating his actual bar mitzvah on a Sabbath like a month from now. But yeah, that's the story. And thank you all for the warm wishes. So many people were so nice. People who I'm sure many of whom have no idea what a bar mitzvah is, but they were just very, very warm, as LawTube followers tend to be. You guys are amazing. So thank you.
What was the English word for tefillin? Did you say olfactory?
No, phylacteries. Phylacte.
PHY lacteries.
Phylacteries.
Yeah,
okay, that sounds phallic, and it sounds like it has to do with lactation as well.
This is tired
lactation.
Tired Viva. Basically, any word you say can be turned into. That's what she said.
Phallus or boobies.
Tired Viva is. I'm used to tired Viva. This is why it's my favorite Viva.
I'm gonna go attach some phylacteries to my index, my marriage finger.
Okay. Hey Viva.
Yes.
Duty.
Oh God! I was rewatching some of the hearing last night. There was an excessive amount of duty being thrown around. Oh yeah.
You jumping right into the hearing, huh?
No, let's talk about his hair for a minute. I wonder if he actually combed it out, especially.
I think there's a problem with it now. It's out of control.
No, actually.
Oh, really?
I was thinking it's the first time you combed it in ages. It looks
I've been pulling it. I've been pulling out hair, but it's my God, listening to that last night. Who watched the full 2-hour hearing yesterday? Nobody. Okay, good.
Yeah, I watched most of it.
I was like, no, you guys did, so I didn't have to. You did a service for us. Thank you very much. I have less than zero interest. If you're going to put something on prime time and not during the hours, this is just a political theater. I don't believe in any of it. So,
is there such a thing as a congressional hearing that is not political theater?
That's true. Yeah, they all are.
True.
I don't remember it being this bad. I mean, this was full-on North Korean kangaroo court. I mean, except for the fact that they have no real power to adjudicate or impose sanctions. This
is all political. The whole process is political. It's a whole political process. So there's no adversarial system. It's just, they just talk and tell us what they want us to hear. But, it is what it is. It's what we got to go through. So
I think there's so much more to talk about. That would be much more interesting than the hearing last night. Personally,
Peter's like, please don't drag us down here. Let's go elsewhere.
Yeah,
this is laid back news.
Laid back news.
Spicy news.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
thought. Viva's like, let's get into the politics.
On that note, actually, that's perfect because we all are wondering. I don't know if anybody's heard, but there's this trial that happened recently, kind of a big deal. Sort of has consumed all of YouTube, and then it's consumed all of what is sometimes referred to as LawTube. Where is everybody going from here? What's everybody interested in? Because honestly, I would love to know. I don't plan to keep going together. I'm semi-interested in the Marilyn Manson thing. I don't know if anybody's looking into that, but it seems like that may have no legs if they're not pressing any charges. Maybe it's dropping, but the defamation part could be really fun. That might be the next suit, but I mean, what's going on?
I think the Depp trial did one thing that was interesting, and that exposed the filtering of the media, because you had millions and millions of people who watched the trial and then watched the aftermath of the media, and they found the disconnect between what they saw and what's being reported. And it's just been fascinating to watch people kind of reconcile those two events, like what we saw versus how it's being reported. So I thought that was just a fascinating there's a fascinating piece that's been going on for the past 2 weeks.
No, I agree.
I think it did something different though, where everybody was pretty much on the same page with that, but there was still some fire if you disagreed even one little bit. So I'm interested to see in some of these other cases that maybe aren't as clear cut. Are people going to be divisive? I mean, the hearings last night, not to bring them up, but people couldn't listen to anything other than what they already thought.
Yes.
And so I'm interested to see how future trials that maybe, and I actually think the Marilyn Manson situation is a little bit different than Johnny Depp. There are some different aspects to it. So I am interested in that and talking about that case. And then the Valo Daybell case in Boise is interesting to me. And then there's a couple cases in Florida because I'm in Florida. So I try to cover stuff I can add value to. But yeah, those are kind of what's next on in the assembly line for me. But I'm going to try to stick to these trials. The Valo Daybell stuff, a lot of it's been televised. So that's cool when people can see it with their own eyes, like what Nate's saying. It's better than, there are some cases you got to report back to, especially federal cases. We go listen to them. We've sat in on some, come talk about what's happening. But I think people like to see with their own eyes to know you're not just feeding them nonsense or you're not slanting it one way or the other because of what you think already going into it.
Yeah, the Marilyn Manson, you're right. It's different. In regards, I mean, first off, you have Johnny Depp, who is a beloved Disney character. You have Marilyn Manson. Now, if you, as a lawyer, all of you, answer me on this. If you want a client, do you want it to be somebody with those accusations that's Marilyn Manson or, say, Gene Simmons or early days Alice Cooper? It's like this paints its own picture, and it's very hard. The guy is named after Marilyn Monroe and Charles Manson. His band members are named after combinations of serial killers and beauty queens. Everything he puts out has a panache of darkness or evil or gothy side, what have you, into heavy metal. So it's just so easy to just go, look at him. monster, right?
But
Now that has to be hard for, obviously defending yourself against those kinds of charges because they're already pre-painted in people's minds.
But that's the job of the lawyer, right? As his attorney, I'm assuming, is going to make the distinction, just like in the Cardi B case. There's a difference between Cardi B, the performer, the person who says I'm a stripper, I'm a prostitute, I do all this stuff, and Cardi B, the actual person. And in that trial, remember, there was alleged she was a prostitute, alleged this, and she won on all those counts because she was, her lawyer was like, look at this person, she's selling, she's robbing men and all this other stuff. But the actual real person was like, I don't actually do drugs, right? This is an act. And I think if you're talking about Marilyn Manson, if you have an attorney who knows what they're doing, they're going to make that distinction and let the crowd know there's a performance piece of it, but there's an actual person, and that person is what we're here to discuss.
Does anyone remember the rumor growing up? I'm just Googling it now that Marilyn Manson removed his lower ribs so that he could fillet
First
himself.
thing that pops into my head, Viva. I don't know why, but that's the first thing that pops into my head.
I'm just Googling it. Was it a rumor like Richard Gere type rumor, or was it actually true? Because I
remember him actually talking about it. I remember him going on, I think it was Bill O'Reilly or something at the time, and actually talking about it. And I don't know if it was something that he actually did or if that was just something that he said he wanted to do just to make waves or something.
He says, although the story, this is from The Sun and it's from 2021. Although the story of Manson's alleged, the alleged rib removal chased him for years, he denied having the cosmetic procedure. Okay.
Whenever you cite The Sun, we don't forget we just had this big defamation suit.
Joe's like, they're still talking.
But hold on, no,
we found the subject that finally is too much for Joe.
I know let's keep on because it keeps Joe quiet and eating, and he'll be vaping on the side.
That's not a bad idea, Eric.
Joe, we're still talking about Marilyn Manson.
I'm okay with Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson. There's just one story about him. To me, it's a gross visual, and I'm sorry, I can't. I can't.
But I think what's interesting is they tried to connect Manson to Johnny to hurt Johnny in his case, but I actually think it ended up having the reverse effect where it helped Marilyn Manson. I think people are way more likely. What Eric said is 100% true. Growing up, I don't know everybody's ages, but growing up, I was like a young kid when Marilyn Manson was peaking. And it was like, stay away, do not listen, do not watch. Anybody who does has problems. That's just what it was told to me as. Yep. And I think this Johnny connection has made people like Marilyn Manson more. I shouldn't say people that were fans were already fans. I should say not have as much of a negative thought like Eric was describing, which I think was par for the course with Marilyn Manson prior to this trial.
By the way, I have to point something out. Joe, you can't be complaining about Marilyn Manson when, after all, you are the twin of good old Anton LaVey.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I have a joke. I shouldn't make it. I'm just going to bite.
No, that's why you're
here. No. I'm going to bite it. I'm going to bite it harder than I bit it Sunday night. It's still swollen. My flipping tongue.
Good.
It was another phallus joke, but I'll leave it.
Where are you going with this? You're making a joke.
What's Gene Simmons? I only picture the guy from Family Guy. Does he have a bad reputation for being a dirty pervert?
He was in Kiss.
Yeah,
the whole tongue thing, the whole
right, but the rock star is not the problem.
Too much.
That's what Gene Simmons was. I mean, that's all he wanted to do, Gene Simmons. Oh, that and the fact that he was Jewish also was like a big thing.
Yeah, he's born in Israel.
On Manson, do you guys aren't some of you guys wondering if there's a generation gap in the jury selection here? Because there's got to be a significant amount of population right now that doesn't know who the heck this guy is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
think that's good though. I think that helps him.
Oh yeah,
anyone, probably anyone younger than me, probably does not know who he is.
I don't know. I think
he's carried.
I think everybody has. If they don't know, if they don't specifically know him, they have an impression.
He's the
Hi, Emily.
What's up, Emily?
I was having tech issues. Sorry.
Me too. My tech issues were I flew in and I needed to put everything together, and then I realized, I don't have cables.
Google Chrome was like, I hate you. So,
and by the way, we know that Joe is the twin brother to Anton LaVey. Do not forget that David has almost completed his transformation into Abby Hoffman.
I see it.
You're there. You're there, buddy.
His nose is uglier than mine. Mine is wider than his is long. And
okay, you're even the same height, dude. Even the same height.
I got 15 pounds on him. I can guarantee you that much.
Crazy. Okay, so Marilyn Manson. Emily, I'm sure you listened to a little Marilyn Manson in your time.
Yeah, I'm a basic 90s bitch. I have absolutely listened to Marilyn Manson. I have a very wide and eclectic taste in music. So especially when we get to 90s, I can lay down from R&B and rap to country. We've got it all. I like music a lot.
His cover of Sweet Dreams was legendary. I mean, that was legendary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I put him on the map.
I also think the whole background, like he does not have the same history as Johnny Depp, which I think will make the entire thing a little bit different. But I definitely think it's a different legal case, which I think is what's going to be fun about breaking it down. Is it's not just the same thing. He's saying somebody accusing him of this is lying, and now we have to go see if they're lying. It's not that at all, really.
I haven't even gotten into it because there's so many cases involved. Yes. It's like it's like trying to do double dutch. It's like, where do you just jump in? So we haven't jumped in.
You know what? One thing I found fascinating even about the Johnny Depp trial is that we had actually two explosive defamation trials happen with essentially the same facts. We had the Kardashians with their trial in California, which they won, and that was behind closed doors. And that got really almost no traction because people couldn't see it. But the Johnny Depp trial, which you could see everything, it was like exploded. So it's interesting. The fact
we saw the court animator though. Doing the Kardashians dirty. It was pretty funny.
No, but the thing about the Johnny Depp trial, it had broader implications than just a fight. Kardashian was very limited. It's pinpointed, involves a celebrity and somebody else that we don't really know about. Johnny Depp,
they were both celebrities. Blac Chyna's a celebrity.
Yeah,
I know. I appreciate that, but the accusations were not ones that affected. It was not a gender question. It was not a hashtag.
Well,
yes, no.
Yes, it was though, because it was about abuse with the brother.
Yeah,
it was.
So you all know what happened.
Sorry, Viva.
Blac Chyna.
Everybody jumps on Viva. It helps that he's in the middle.
Blac Chyna had said that Rob Kardashian was beating her up, but then they had all these evidence of people coming in and said no, it was actually the opposite way around. And I think the mom's husband or boyfriend, she said that one time she had a rope around his neck and pulled a gun on him, and she said, "I was joking."
It was an iPhone cable. It was like thinner than a rope.
Not a threat.
It was a phone cable and then the gun.
No, it wasn't a threat. It was a joke.
It was a joke. She tried to play it off like I was just kidding. She was
you can't strangle someone with an iPhone cable. Those things snap like nobody's.
That's exactly what I was saying.
I don't think they're so thin that you would get like that would be.
No.
He was scared, but they've got another part of that case coming up, and I'm bummed that there aren't cameras in the courtroom because the next part is the revenge porn, and that's going to be very interesting too. Yeah. So anyway, it's an interesting case. I wish there were cameras in that courtroom because
that would be great.
It would have been very interesting. LA County is now very shy about cameras in the courtroom. So I think the Britney Spears leaking audio kind of ruined it for everybody.
Cameras in the courtroom certainly helped Johnny Depp a lot.
Yes.
He won the trial long before the jury came out. He won the trial or what he was looking to get out of the trial because there are cameras in the courtroom. And even if there were no cameras in the courtroom, even with the verdict, he would not have been as benefited by this trial nearly as much. Like probably a small fraction without the cameras in the courtroom for people like us to weigh in and show why it was that he had so much more credibility than Amber had. My question to you, the panel here, is: will cameras in the courtroom? Do you expect that will be a benefit to Manson, or is he better off without cameras in the courtroom?
He's better off with cameras, just like anybody else who has been wronged. I definitely think so.
If he's right, if he's guilty, it'll probably be a bad thing.
Assuming yes, I'm going with that assumption, of course. So,
but I think transparency benefits everyone. We saw the media headlines, and the media headlines are not the cases we've been watching. And even the reporting, though I enjoy, Chanley Painter from Court TV, we even saw some of the reporting saying this was a great day for Amber Heard. I'm like, what day are you watching? Because I'm not. So even then, you can get these differences of opinion. But if the only person sitting in the courtroom is the only one reporting on it, you only have one perspective. Yeah, I think cameras in the courtroom everywhere.
Even if you have individuals like us going into the courtroom as well and then reporting afterwards, it's it's very beneficial. So you can get that analysis out there. But at the same time, it's not quite as illustrative as being able to react in the moment and to have people watching when you say, okay, that right there, that was a bad move. That was a bad move because XYZ.
Alita, I'll take it one step further as someone who actually did it for Maxwell. Yeah. It's negligible compared to what we had. I mean, it's better than having absolutely nothing. But me coming in and watching a trial in a courtroom and coming out and reporting to each of you about that Maxwell trial, it's like everyone's getting something filtered through. You're hearing hearsay by definition because it's being filtered through my lens and how I perceive things and how I understand it, rather than you being able to watch it directly. And it's also there's no way I can conjure up the visuals because the picture's worth 1,000 words, and you're talking about millions of pictures that are being flashed through my mind only and watching the video, so to speak, of everything happening, and you're just hearing a handful of words describing that from me. It's incomparable, and that's why that's one of the reasons the press coverage was so much less. I think there may have been political motivations for that also. In fact, I think there's a lot of evidence as there were political motivations for it to be as quiet as it was. But my point is what you're saying, Alita. It's not comparable. We need cameras everywhere. I think anywhere there's any government agent working anywhere in this day and age, cameras everywhere. I'm talking I'm talking courtrooms. I don't care if it's federal, if it's state. I mean, on police officers, everyone's seen the massive benefits. I think in the classroom, what is there to hide in a classroom? I want to see cameras everywhere because the more transparency we have.
There are minor children in classrooms, Joe.
Okay,
probably.
So,
I worry about the classrooms.
Okay,
let's hold on. But even with the classroom, hold on. But before you go there, Joe, when my daughter was in daycare, we only chose daycares that we can do live feeds to look inside to see what was going on. So there are daycares and schools that
not me with your kids.
No, not anybody else. He's talking about me.
Yeah, that's
right. When he's talking about cameras, I'm assuming he's talking about I can look at my kids and see what's going on in the school, right?
Yes,
not anybody.
It's not that I should be able to watch what's happening with some 10-year-old in Iowa. It's that there should be recordings of it that this way that can be looked back what happened here. Not that it should be. I'm not even saying it should necessarily be online like what Nate was just describing. That parents can even go look at it, but that there should be some oversight. I don't see why there's a problem with oversight. And think about God forbid when these shooting situations happen, how much more beneficial it would be if there were cameras that could be accessed and how many lives could theoretically be saved. So
I have no problem with cameras in the hallway, especially if law enforcement can access them. Then you don't have to wait for 40 minutes plus to breach something if you can at least look inside what's happening in a school. And the fact that we're there and having that conversation as someone with, a lot of us have school-age kids. It's a weird conversation to have. But we had an incident at my old elementary school with a kid that got pretty substantially injured, and they sent the notice to preserve the cameras from the outdoor of the school, the security cameras, and that video magically disappeared. It was so strange.
We've had that happen multiple times in cases. Where the video the parents get to watch the video and they tell us there's a video, and then the video disappears where the child was abused. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Rob, what were you saying?
No, just bringing this back to what Eric originally asked, like when he was asking, what are we going to cover next? I think one thing the Depp trial kind of did was it had everyone on Twitter. I don't know if you guys have had this, but I get articles sent to me like every day with headline, hey, this headline seems off. Hey, this headline seemed off. It has people like looking at the headlines and demanding additional coverage. So the options for all the attorneys on the panel of what we cover next, I mean, the sky's honestly the limit. Like in the group chat, we could probably just toss out 15 cases and just be like, hey, well, so who's covering this one? It's just there.
Yeah.
It's a new it's court TV, but like version 2.0, and it's what people love.
It's court TV without corporate overlords.
Well, we used to have like People's Court, which it had minimal. I guess it was pretty staged, and we didn't appreciate it as children, but it was sort of like unfiltered. This is unfiltered with decent commentary and intellectually honest people who are not beholden to any narrative. It's the future of it until Bill C-11 passes in Canada, and then the government suppresses the non-accredited media for the benefit of the accredited media.
But unofficial.
This isn't new though. When I watch court, like how many court shows are on in daytime TV? Like whenever I go see my mom, it's always this judge, that judge, Judge Judy.
But those are all reality TV. I mean, they're both sides are paid to be there, and it's kind of a kangaroo court situation. It's pantomime court, but real court, you can't make this up. And we started to get it really during COVID, where we started to get Zoom court and Judge
Lawyer
Middleton and Lawyer Cat. And we started to get these moments out of Zoom court where people were like, hey, I actually want to know what's happening in my locality. I want to know how these judges are ruling. I want to know.
They should know that. Like,
they should.
That's important because it's going to happen to somebody, to you or somebody you know, and you shouldn't be so scared of the process because you have no clue what it's going to be like. So even if they can just hear what it's like, listen to some lawyers talk about it. None of us are giving legal advice as to, what you have to do here or what we're not explaining to any of these people what to do if this does come before you. But if you see what it's like, you see the process, maybe you'll be a little less scared. You'll know what your rights are. Compare that to the other TV that is so promoted around the world. It's like, it's a lot better, more educational to watch this than to watch a lot of other stuff, which we've already mentioned.
I want to clarify, I am giving legal advice only on this show. I'm the only one here. I'm giving legal advice, not in general on my channel, but here on this show, whatever you hear from me is legal advice. Take it to the bank.
I was going to say, how many of you get asked, though, when the judicial elections come up, who do I vote for? How do I know what judge to vote for? If you had courtrooms open, I mean, you would get a very quick sense of what judges you liked, how they ruled, what judges you didn't like, who treated people like humans. I had a judge that treated no one like a human, and she had a member of the Board of Supervisors from LA County on the jury and was screaming at him during jury selection. I'm like, oh, this is not going to go well. And I wanted her yeeted very badly. So I was like, come on, do it. But
even the advice you give on that, Emily, is like you have a couple hundred cases in front of a judge over a few years, but there are some judges you have like one case in front of or two, and they're looking for your advice. So it would actually be helpful to us if we could watch the judges in our jurisdiction, even, you never
know when they're on keto for the first couple of weeks, and you've caught them during those few weeks when they're newly on keto and they're just not happy people.
No, I think if people saw what goes on in court, they would actually lose more faith in the system if they had any remaining. But someone had asked a question. It's a legitimate question. If court hearings are public and you can go walk in at any point in time, why can you not record? Why can you not take pictures? I mean, I think I know from a Canadian perspective, it's decorum. It's a question of potentially not taking pictures of witnesses who are minors or victims who are minors and then diffusing those. So it's easier to control. There's areas that are cordoned off for pictures for interviews, but not in the courtroom. Same rationale.
You should screen it. It can be screened. I mean, there's nothing.
There's rules, though. You can't just walk into a courtroom with a camera. There are rules, and you do need to know what's being recorded and when, because there is, especially in criminal, there's a lot of safety considerations with witnesses testifying and such, and you need to make sure that everyone knows. It's a very big deal if somebody tries to come in and record surreptitiously. So it's court rules, local rules, and essentially it needs approval. But anyone can come in and watch.
That would be an argument for a court-controlled stream to where they can place it, know where it is, and say everything else is absolutely banished, and we are controlling the stream on what could be.
Courts can't even make overhead projectors work.
Yeah. I don't know where you're going with this one, Eric. That's
let's have a conversation about technology in the courtroom and just how good they are at it.
Virginia was incredible. Virginia was incredible with their tech. They had those live feeds from the court
reporter.
Everyone
but Elaine
that was court
great
TV.
With their tech.
That was court TV.
No, not the court reporter. The court reporter wasn't. Yeah, the
well,
court reporter was. That was live transcription that was happening and being displayed on iPads at counsel's table.
One of the things that's an issue too with just all of this stuff being publicly streamed is when you have, like, there are certain kind of cases, right? And we all know how embarrassing a lot of the facts that came out in this case that everybody in the world got to hear. Like a lot of my cases, my clients don't want their medical information out there for everybody to hear for every trial. So we would object to 99% of our trials being publicly streamed so that you can hear all of the diagnoses and problems and mental health issues that clients have, when they get in certain situations. So there's a lot of issues with just not being able to put it out there for public consumption. So I see some arguments on both sides.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like Rittenhouse could very well have been convicted in the dark.
He would have.
I think the jury would have done what the jury would have done on the facts. I just think he wouldn't have been able to recover in the court of public opinion without it being on. Yeah. I don't think the jury's influenced by it being televised. I really don't. They get to see it all live. It doesn't matter if it's also streamed. The jury sees it live. But the court of public opinion is very much a big difference and allowing litigants to recover, especially in such a high-profile case.
Also to watch prosecutorial borderline behavior.
No, that was misconduct.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go there because I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just saying that exposed, I think, a lot of people. And one thing I would point out, I know of many people who have given me feedback who were all for the death penalty and changed their mind because of Rittenhouse. It was that important because they're saying, well, wait a minute. If this kind of thing can go on, and if they don't get called on it, somebody could be convicted and potentially lose their life. That's a big deal. And we do need to see this.
Also, shout out to Natalie Wisco in the chat. Hey, Natalie.
Natalie!
She just said, Emily is right in all caps.
Well, I do. I think the jury would have gotten it right in that case. The jury's not influenced by it streaming. But I don't think if Kyle is to have any hope of getting his life back at all, that would have happened if this was done without cameras in the courtroom where everyone could watch this trial go down. Everyone could watch Gage Groskowitz's testimony, and everyone can watch good lawyering, and everyone can watch prosecutors cross the line. Because, when you just go on the media and be like, sometimes prosecutors overreach, it depends on the prosecutor. You'll get just absolutely smacked down on Twitter if you go against one of the prosecutors that is liked in the media. And so to be able to say, no, this happens. It's not always, but it happens, and open people's minds to it's not all prosecutors are bad or all prosecutors are good. There's circumstances in each case, and each case needs to be looked at.
But ask more accountability with trial lawyers too, which is a good thing.
If Natalie Wisco's in the house, ask her if the information that was being discussed and the aggregate knowledge of the internet was trickling down to the prosecution or the defense in real time. Because I think, Emily, that's where you might have actually had an impact from.
Well, I think
I agree.
I do know for a fact that they had that some of our panel discussions were making it to her defense team, because she said that there was something that we had said that made it into the closing. I can't remember what it was. I think it was
something Dark Crypto brought to my channel the day before closing. I think it was about the angle of the gun that the guy who was basically pretending like, I saw you with the gun. He had his hand down, and that Mark Richards ended up bringing that had never come up anywhere during the trial. And
it was a mirror of a car. It was the mirror of a car.
The yellow pants.
Natalie said she's
pants.
open for a link, Eric. Natalie said she's open.
It's risky on the technology. Let's see.
And there's one left for a perfect
DM.
What was that
I don't know
game?
if she follows me. Follow me on
Hollywood
Twitter.
Squares.
I'll leave it. I can send the same link.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So,
But one thing about that.
I hear
One thing about
somewhere.
that. Yeah, I do hear too. One thing though about that whole case, the scariest part about that case was the prosecutor's opening statement. He just essentially went and lied to the jury. The evidence is going to show Kyle Rittenhouse chased this guy down and all that stuff. And that was, to me, that was the scariest part. And I'll also say this. For that jurisdiction, not to hold him accountable for those lies and that misconduct, I think that's the failing of the Rittenhouse case, because he shouldn't be able to just go out and just make those statements in line like that to the jury and to the judge and then just walk away like, okay, we just lost. No, that was wrong. And I think most people saw that. And I think that's the I think if anything out of that trial, it really exposed the fact that prosecutors have a lot of power. And if you use it incorrectly, you could be sending people to jail for the rest of their lives, which is unfortunate.
I mean, depending on your state, not just jail.
Yeah.
And by the way,
leverage in every case, basically.
I agree with this.
In every case.
No, not everybody will agree with the decision, and that's fine. That's your opinion, but at least you got to see it to disagree.
And we're not talking about
St. Rittenhouse at all.
No, we're not talking about him. We're talking about the open courtrooms.
Yep. And it's not to
Natalie.
somebody.
Nice to meet you.
But it's a conversation that in self-defense cases and in cases that get so politically divisive as this one did, it should be where everybody can make their own decision. Y'all are welcome to be like, he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have had that gun. Fine. But once he's there, then what he did, being legal or not legal, is the conversation, not whether it's something that you would have done or somebody else would have done. And without having that in the public forum, even if he's acquitted, that there's still no coming back from that, because the public's not going to hear everything that happened in the courtroom. We saw it after the verdict. We saw how much fallout there was even after he was acquitted. So, and we're seeing that again. No one's talking about Johnny Depp being listened to, or Johnny Depp being vindicated, or Johnny Depp, being a victim of abuse. They're talking about like orgies of misogyny, and in this verdict, it's wild. Hi, Natalie. Good to see you.
Well, and that's so correct. and I say this to my family and friends and everyone in general, is if you watch the whole trial, I don't really care what your opinion is because you watched the whole trial and you're aware of the evidence, things like that. But it wasn't just the trial that made this such a big thing for me, and it honestly really kind of fucked up my life and a lot of the way that I see the media and trust things like that.
Same with us all.
Yeah, same with us all.
It wasn't just the trial. I mean, because anything that was written on our side, with the exception of like 2 documents that Corey did, I personally wrote. So I'm looking at these articles about these motions that I'm filing, and I was like, I know that's not correct because I wrote it. And it was very jarring. And, just having such a public perception of, your client and me in particular, like the first stream that I did with Alita, I was so nervous the whole time and stuff. Cause I'm like, people are going to hate me because they don't actually know what happened. And, you see the headlines, things like that. And it's like just fighting such an uphill battle that most of my family and friends, during this, because I had a lot of other stuff going on, didn't even know that I was on the case because I didn't want to spend every waking moment that I had trying to justify my client before the trial because, that's literally all I would ever talk about then.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think we were asking Natalie, or Viva was asking, what was there real-time review of feedback that people from this group and others who were later be called law to, was that actually happening during Rittenhouse? Was there any review maybe between days, like when you were off, like what?
Oh yeah, me personally, yes, because I was kind of the one doing stuff. If for nothing else, just being in that environment it was really hard to think about anything else. And you're already going through the entire day, in your head, and it, there were certain things that like I also wanted to watch again, like Corey's Cross of Gage Grosskreutz. I was there in the moment. I'm like, that was so great. Like, 2 days later,
that was
great. I want to watch that again. So there
How was that in
something.
comparison? Sorry to interrupt. No, I'm curious because being in the moment versus looking at it from the perspective that we were all seeing it, how did it compare and contrast? I'm very curious about that because everybody's filtering their view.
Yeah. We saw the jury the whole time. I mean, you saw where I was sitting is I'm literally facing the jury the whole time. No one had a better view of the jury except for me. And, there were a lot of what people were saying, stuff like that, doing commentary. We were getting, the reason I even found out it was going on is because we started getting inundated with these emails from viewers that were like, and I've said this before, there are, 10 attorneys on the internet that are calling you. And for things like, about Kyle testifying. And there's a lot of stuff about that it's like, it's very specifically related to the state of Wisconsin law, stuff like that. You need to be able to know what a defendant's state of mind was. So where in a normal context, no, you'd never put him on the stand. But specifically in Wisconsin law, we had to have certain information in order to even get the instruction. So there was a lot of stuff like that, we kept getting all this stuff about emails, phone calls, messages, tons of stuff. And that type of stuff didn't really come in. But what Alita's talking about is specifically it was while I was rewatching Corey's Cross of Gage Grosskreutz, that Alita had said something, picked up on like a head trauma word. And that from you guys, whoever else was watching, I think Legal Mindset was there, and I'm sure Joe was probably there. It was everybody who was watching it, like very much keyed into that phrase. And when we were prepping the weekend before, it was Saturday, I was in here, I was like, hey, Mark, I was re-looking back at some of this stuff. That phrase went over really well. And I think you should reincorporate that phrase back in because that was really, very good for everything overall. So, that's really where that came in, what she's talking about. It was, the specific use of like the word head trauma being so impactful to people watching it. How that was more of, little phrases, things like that. There's people really picked up on this language is more of how that stuff came back up for us.
Well, I actually wanted to ask you a follow-up. So, like that Gage, that that Gage Grosskreutz moment where he had that confession, which went viral, and that's really where a lot of people call like the birth of LawTube, because that's Viva clipped it out of Nick Ricado's stream.
A million and a half. A million and a half.
And 5 million. It had 5 million views ultimately.
What did he? I forgot what he said now, Joe. What
that was what he said.
It wasn't until
correct.
Yep.
Correct.
It wasn't until you were pointing your gun at him that he shot you, which went against all of the media narratives and all of the other narratives.
And then the head trauma part had to do with it didn't even come from a specific question that Corey, like the word wasn't volunteered by Corey. It was volunteered by Gage Grosskreutz saying, yes, I saw that he had head trauma from the skateboard or something. Yeah. It was from like, I guess Joshua Ziminski, like the skateboard. He's like, yes,
he said he could.
He's
an expert EMT. He's an expert EMT.
He volunteered that. Like, oh my gosh, please use that.
Serious bodily injury right there.
Corey's word.
Natalie, I'm curious. Everyone, when there's 3 lawyers who are watching it, and he makes that admission of like, that is correct. So the lawyers all go nuts, and the public who are watching us, they might be taking a cue from the lawyers to recognize the significance of that moment. My question is, did you find that moments like that might have actually fallen relatively flat with the jury because they're not being sort of coached by attorneys who are recognizing the significance of it, or were they tending to pick up on the moments that were significant in similar fashion to the way the panel was when we were watching it?
They absolutely picked up on that. That was, everyone in the courtroom did. There's a picture that was at least used in local newspapers, stuff like that, of Gage on the stand, and the court reporter was making a face because she was like, oh my God, I can't believe he just admitted that.
Court reporters are the best.
Yeah,
court reporters are the best.
She came up and apologized to me the next day. She was like, I wanted to make sure you guys know that like I wasn't making a face at Corey. I just like couldn't believe what was happening in court. And you can tell from their reactions that they're reacting in the way.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Now, Natalie, you've been working. Have you watched any of the Depp heard stuff, the trial, and then the coverage being so divergent?
I've been on Alita's streams a couple times. And I have said, for the most part, like why I haven't gone outside Alita is just like my personal nervousness about like, it's like I don't want to impose. I'm from the Midwest, but no, I've jumped on. I'm always happy to give my take on things. I jumped on Alita stuff a couple times. I still have a very, very busy practice. So there's lots of stuff that, I couldn't do, but I also commute to work. So, I've got 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the afternoon every day. So, I would listen to some, there were, a lot of the, honestly, I don't think I watched any of the deposition testimony except for maybe the guy who was smoking in the car just because he was good. Yeah. So, but I watched pretty much all the live testimony, if not live, then after the fact.
Yeah. It's been interesting watching the divergence again, such a stark divergence in the media headlines and what we all saw in court. And it reminds me very much of watching the Rittenhouse case again. And that case got politicized because of weapons and self-defense. This case is getting politicized down gender lines, and it's just bizarre to watch. And I know most on the panel have either been subject of media headlines or mentions in media headlines about this stuff. It's just bizarre to watch.
Well, and that was something that Mark had said in an interview after the fact outside the house is we represent clients, not causes. At least that's a personal thing. Is if you're going to be representing causes, absolutely work for organizations, lobby, write amicus briefs, things like that. But it's very hard to fight a cause from actually in the courtroom. And when you're representing an individual person, because you have to sometimes make judgment calls is, do we sacrifice the person or do we sacrifice the cause? And you don't ever want that to come up to it. So it has to be the person.
That was a very wise call. It would have been a much more difficult case to prove to a jury, I would think, to try and get them to follow behind a cause than just look at the specific facts here. I think it was a great call by your team.
And that's the thing. And why we rejected a lot of, the suggestions, things like that, like we got during the trial, there were lots of, people who were reaching out to us specifically about policy considerations, things like that. And we're like, we can't do that because this is a person here. This isn't us appealing to a legislature. I think policy for the most part, and I think it was, I don't remember who it was who had said on the stream, might have been Rob or something, that it's like, there's just, the courtroom's not set up in itself for policy change. Policy change has to be enacted and pursued more from a legislature standpoint, because when you're in the moment, you're dealing with a person, not a cause.
Yeah, I can't get over the fact that in the Johnny Depp trial, it's being depicted as pro Depp misogynists, ignoring, I mean, the two biggest streamers who Emily and Legal Bytes, who are women, who came to the same conclusion as other men, and yet it's still depicted as misogyny, blind fandom and whatever. And then I have to again criticize local radio, CJAD this morning. I'm listening to daytime radio, and they're talking about why people don't trust the media. And it's literally the Principal Skinner saying, like, why don't the kids trust us? It's them that's out of touch. And the media, at least in Montreal and Canada, literally blames the people for not trusting the media and not the media. And we're seeing it in real time now. They're calling pro-Depp people who think Depp should have won misogynists, even if they're women. And if they're women, they're gender trading or sex trading skirts, according to
it's internal misogyny is the term.
Yeah, internal
or we are sucking up to male power.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Because that's the only way our little women brains can deal with things, is to suck up to male power.
Well, because we have approval. That's the thing. Is it's actually all about the male approval anyway. Is because we set up the male power. Is because then maybe we'll get approval.
What do you guys think about that Stanford?
About being a woman.
The only approval I desperately seek is my mother's.
Being a lawyer.
I volunteer as tribute to move down below the women. By the way,
Okay.
Yeah. I feel very uncomfortable.
We don't need you to be in white.
I volunteer.
You don't need anyone to save us, Joe. We're allowed to be on the bottom row. It's fine. It's just been so bizarre to watch.
It's closer to the exit this way.
Oh my God.
Okay, hold on. Really quickly, I'm going to do something very rude. I don't mean to. It's a problem with the software, so I'm going to put a screenshot of it. No, the super chat's a problem, and I want a screenshot of this, and I also want to cover the subject. But this is for the developers of the software to say, this is garbage, and I don't want this. So please, I apologize ahead of time.
We also can't even see the full super chat.
And it's also,
nobody can. Even on StreamYard, you can't with too many characters. So
nobody can get angry when a dog says it. So hold on.
Always shows the whole thing.
This format is unacceptable. You must make room for the super chats in the bottom,
because that's a longer super chat.
It needs to shift everything.
I agree.
Yeah.
Or even better, reserve a spot. But this is from Uncivil, asking about the female Stanford law professor, saying things. Appears she's never been licensed to practice law.
It shows.
And this same professor has just suggested that people should be writing to the Virginia state legislature to have Judge Ascarati possibly removed. People that are not Virginia citizens, people that are not living in Virginia. I mean, that's disgusting.
That's appalling.
It is absolutely
Judge A was
amazing.
Patient,
phenomenal,
to the point where I thought she actually went above and beyond to bail out Team Heard's attorneys. I think that any other judge, if you've got an attorney standing at the bench or standing at the podium gripping it saying, I'm trying, they would say, counsel, move on, or call them up to the bench, or kick the jury out and scream at them that you have gotten the same objection 9 times in a row. 9 times, and you can't get it together. Most judges would not have been that patient.
Stanford professor.
I'm trying, Your Honor.
Stanford professor. If in case some of the audience not familiar with it, Stanford by many is considered the number 2 law school in the country behind Yale, ahead of Harvard, ahead of Columbia. Stanford professor who screamed that there was zero evidence of actual malice in the Johnny Depp trial. I mean, think about what's being offered.
They don't understand. The media and other lawyers don't understand what malice means. They keep seeming to think it means being mean. Even in closing, Elaine got it wrong, and she's like, "Malice means this." I'm like, "You're just misstating the law in closing." We've gotten there now. I didn't have that on my bingo card.
I'm trying to didn't have it after her opening statement. Well, I had that on my bingo card.
I just on that, Michelle Dauber. Talking about internalized misogyny, she referred to female lawyers who defend people that she doesn't like as skirts. And it's this was after she blocked me, so I could no longer respond. But
don't worry, she'll move to broads next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
saw
you know, it's always
someone in
interesting
the
to see
chat
other women
commented that
tear
I'm
women
Kyle
down.
skirt, so
Rude. It's
You know-
it's weird to see women tear other women down in the name of feminism. It's just a strange thing to see. It's
It
a
is
very odd thing to
strange
witness.
thing.
But I think the media's kind of stuck with this because let's not forget, for the past 4 years, they've been all team Heard. Johnny got canceled, and they were telling us he's a white, and then after the stunt trial, and now you get this verdict, and it's kind of like, well, do we say we made a mistake, or do we double down and say the jury made a mistake? And I think they've just kind of said, well, we can play it where it seems like this was misogyny, the jury, everybody's evil, and what we were saying before wasn't really wrong, but who really knows? So it seems like that's the game they're trying to play now.
it's justification bias. They have their conclusion, and they're going to keep their conclusion, and they have to find a way to spin the narrative to fit their conclusion.
Oh, and if you try to fight them, they block you on Twitter, and they basically can't have the argument. Thanks, Eve Barlow.
But it's really exposed. It's exposed the media. They've exposed themselves. And I think, again, we've gotten to this like ivory towering of the media where they're like, we know better than you people. So you should all listen to us. And if you listen to anyone other than us, it just shows that all of you are sheep and all of you are dangerous and all of you are extremists. And it's so fucking condescending. I'm just over it.
I've been in the last 2 weeks. I've been blocked by Eve Barlow for no good reason. Michelle Dauber, Taylor Lorenz. It's like you want they say things you contradict them, and then you get blocked.
I don't know what I need to do. I have not been blocked by any of these people.
Me
And I
either.
Well, you
all of
gotta
them.
Viva's not telling you the full story. You got to read some of Viva's tweets. I almost blocked her.
Viva's
Out of
great.
here. Like, you guys are crazy. Get him out of here.
I think I'm polite. I just
but
it's
Viva,
when you
you
humiliate
cut
someone.
deep though. You cut
You
real
can't
deep though, because I've been watching. I'm like, damn, Viva just cut through all the BS and just boom. So,
By the way, I would love to shift onto talking about our favorite intrepid journalist in scare quotes.
Eve Barlow?
No, Taylor Lorenz.
I know.
And one is actually there, and also I'm practicing the grift. I'm trying to learn how to do this. So I actually have a little preview of a video I did on this channel that is starring our own elite, along with somebody else, Adriana Jacob, who has had her entire life destroyed. So I'm going to play this trailer real quick, and I think it'll be a cool topic because we have one of the subjects right here. Today, I'm talking about Taylor Lorenz of the Washington Post. Before that, the New York Times, and before that, the Atlantic. However, I'm going to share this information about her through 2 interviews. The first of these is with Ariadna Jacob, a manager of up-and-coming creators, especially on TikTok.
When she wrote that, just the question, I'm like, oh, this is going to be really bad. She didn't have any evidence for the other things, but maybe the New York Times told her, like, this one you can't because we're going to definitely get sued.
The second is with my friend Alita of Legal Bytes. What was the parenthetical again?
The parenthetical was about her reaching out to both myself and that umbrella guy for comment. I retweeted her article and I said, this says that you reached out to me for comment, but I see no emails from you. I've double checked everything. I'm pretty sure Who was that? Who's that weirdo?
Amazing.
I mean, working the grift, Eric. Oh, I don't know if you saw this wonderful shirt.
Oh, yeah.
You can get on vivafry.com. Okay.
Oh, I'm good. I'm learning from the best here. Whatever overlords let us do.
Then, right? I need a megaphone for this.
Did Taylor Lorenz and the Washington Post just double down today? Like, did I see that right?
They're beyond that.
There was another article from the Washington Post, or was that yesterday? I don't know if Taylor Lorenz has doubled down, but there was another Washington Post journalist that wrote another piece about the piece, basically, and it was relatively tame, to be honest. It still noted that like the ending editor's note is incorrect, which is a correct statement. That editor's note is still wrong, very wrong about me.
Was that Jonathan Katz or a different guy?
The Racket?
No, this was out of the Washington Post. It's Eric Wemple is the name of the author.
He's supposedly, I don't know if he's their ombudsman, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
There, or media critic.
Yeah. He. Yeah, I read his piece and it seemed pretty. It seemed pretty tame and just sort of talking about the Washington Post having its policy of not noting where certain errors come up, whether it's from the author or from the editor, and they just had that particular policy. I guess not everybody does, or at least some of the other bigger journalism outlets have been toying with possibly having some more nuance in their I guess corrections or whatever by noting whether it came from the editor or the author. Interesting stuff, but either way, I don't know. I don't care. I don't care who got it wrong there. I just want it to be corrected. That's my stance.
I think it's really, really frustrating because they're doubling down a lot in the way that we saw Amber Heard doing this in the trial. And it's just like continuing this feeling of being gaslit, which is why people are getting so upset about it, is because like you understand the reason people are upset with you is the same reason why people think Johnny Depp won, right?
It's the same publication. Imagine that.
Well, and also, I think that one of the things that these journalism outlets really don't understand is that people like us have the ability to keep our finger on the pulse of what people are actually thinking and what people are actually, and I think that people like Taylor Lorenz don't really realize that what she views as a very political issue of her being the victim of some smear campaign. And it's all like, these journalists on the right and then these radicalized influencers. That's how she wants to paint it. However, you have a lot of people that are following all of our channels now that are not just on the right, but a lot of people that are, I see people in the comments that say, I'm a socialist. You've got people that are very politically diverse on my channel now that are all banging the same drum against the media. So they don't realize where these people are coming from or who they represent. And by trying to paint this whole vast swath of people as politically one segment, they are creating I guess you could call it like a battlefront that doesn't exactly exist the way that they think that it does.
Well, they're trying to paint anyone that asks questions with the brush that the people questions bad. If you're asking questions, you're not listening to us and you are other. And right now the other is alt right, whatever. But my channel's a broad international channel with very diverse viewpoints that I don't think my audience leans right at all. In fact, I regularly get people complaining saying, oh, well, I feel like my comment was blocked because of my political leanings. I'm like, we don't know. There's 300,000 people in the chat. I don't know. Don't be a dick and you won't get blocked. It's fine. But it's just wild to watch the othering happen. It's like, if you ask questions and don't agree with us, you are other. And this is how we're not going to engage in a nuanced conversation, because having a conversation requires more energy, more intellectual flexibility, and actually requires somebody to be willing to evaluate their own viewpoint in the context of a conversation. And right now, legacy media is not willing to do that. It's easier to just be like, oh, they're bad.
In the words of legendary Viva Frei, this is classic confession through projection, the way they paint this whole story. Because what they do is they basically come across and they say that people who are independent journalists, and they're referring essentially to people like Emily, Alita, and Peter, to all of us, that our independent journalism is motivated by clickbait, and that we felt that if we back the celebrity of Johnny Depp, in that case, people are gonna flock to us, and we'll see financial increases, and we'll see viewership increases, because that is what motivates mainstream media. That's in general, they're all about the clickbait, and what they didn't realize is that the reason people flock to us is because we did not care about where the evidence would ultimately lead us to conclude, because we didn't have a preconceived conclusion. We started off by saying, show us the evidence, let us see what we see, and we'll judge for ourselves and then weigh in with our opinions. And that's what the public has been starving for, because they haven't gotten it for a long time. As I responded to someone, I think the author's name was Jonathan Katz, who was accusing of clickbait and assessing this whole Taylor Lorenz legal Bytes kerfuffle, And he was joining her in saying that this was all about independent artists trying to chase the dollar, because at the end of the day, everyone is hungry for love. And I was like,
on his Substack, on his own Substack, by the way. Sorry.
I mean, I don't put my content behind a paywall like a lot of the major media outlets. You can watch more than one video without paying me anything. 99% of my content is completely free. But the thing is, we are actually community supported independent content creators, and that's something that the media wants to be. It's why they're putting everything behind a paywall. They would also like to be community supported, and they're not. Okay, so be a better creator. If somebody's like, oh well, my content's not getting a lot of attention, okay, do better. See what your community wants.
Well, I agree with you, Joe, with partially what you said, but I found at the beginning of this trial, I'm just going to be very clear, I thought Depp had not a shot in hell.
Same.
I thought he was done. I was like, actual malice. These statements look like they could be true. He hasn't done.
How did people respond to you, Nate? Were they nice and understanding?
People hated me. I went on the leader street. Every streamer with Nate is an idiot. Blah 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 blah. But I still told the truth. I told people exactly how I felt. But the reason why now I grew so much is because people said, we love the fact that you went in with a conclusion, looked at the evidence, opened up your mind and said, okay, this is where I'm going. So for them to say that we all had this preconceived, we're all for Johnny Depp at the beginning, that's just not true. And I keep saying, look at the videos with me on Alita's channel. I was arguing with Alita, you're crazy. You're
literally receipts. Like the stuff is still there. You can go look at all this stuff.
I didn't try to convince you. I just said, just wait and watch the evidence. Because
I think a lot of us,
why I concluded differently was because I had done my own research beforehand, So, but I was just like, just wait. We'll
and I think a lot of us came in with, how do you win this? If we hadn't looked at everything coming out, I had only looked at the ruling from the UK. That was it. So I hadn't gone and looked at all the other evidence that was available. And I'm like, these are vague statements. I get the defamation by implication, but these are vague statements. They can be literally true. She did get a TRO. Actual malice is high. How do we get there? Let's see. And then after she testified, I'm like, well, now I know why they brought this to trial. I get it.
She still could have won. I mean, she still could have won. And
she could have.
If you ever actually handled a defamation case, or I should just say even analyzed it or fielded a phone call on one, it's so hard to win. It's so hard to win.
Not just could have won, she should have won. If she had better counsel, as bad as the evidence was for her, I respectfully submit, my hot take is that if she had better counsel, she should have won. Now, does that mean that I think she's in the right? No, hell no. I think she's a terribly evil person and that she was completely full of crap. But as everyone's pointing out here, it's very hard to win these cases. And if she had more effective counsel, a lot of the bad evidence that we saw would never have come out. A lot of her bad testimony would not have come out if they would have gotten control of their clients and not allowed her to elaborate in things that made absolutely no sense, that defied science. I think there's a great chance that she could have won this case, and this is more she lost it.
She lost it for herself, but that's not her lawyers. Her lawyers are her third round of lawyers. And I don't know if better is the word I would use. They should have been stronger with their client. But at the end of the day, if the client wants to do it, I mean, it's like you can advise them, and you can tell them what you think. But at the end of the day, you saw her getting up on the stand and saying stuff, and Elaine Bredehoff doing like fish mouth going, and you're like, I don't think Elaine expected that to be the answer, which is wild.
If you push
I have
too hard
opinions
as a
about
lawyer,
Elaine that we're just not going to discuss. Like that.
By the way, I'm going to
capabilities as an attorney.
I got to jump in and be boring with housekeeping, so to speak. The chat's been talking a lot. Okay, there's audio.
Peter's been quiet. I want to give him his chance. It's his debut. Let him weigh in.
Okay, Peter will be next. I won't frame him completely, Joe. Hold on. Thank you. I know that there's an audio issue. I've seen the 5,000 chats that there's an audio issue. I am in contact with the developer of this program. They are actually looking into it with engineers. So I'm sorry there's a crackle. It happens to StreamYard too. It's an issue. They're really digging into it. Please be patient. Number two, I know there's amazing lawyers in the chat right now, fair and balance, on civil law. I am limited by the technology on how many people I can have in the stream at one time. And I would love to have everybody in, and I do try to change up and everything. I just literally cannot fit any more lawyers in right now.
You're so popular, Eric.
Oh, thank you. It's because you came, Melita. Anyway, I just can't fit anybody in. So I'm not trying to neglect anybody. And British Yoga Dubai. No, I'm not a lawyer. I am the one non-lawyer in the stream, and that is one reason that I never put my picture in the headshot or in the thumbnail in general, because I'm referencing lawyers, and I don't put myself as being one. I don't like to make people think that association. But Peter, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just going to respond to what Emily said, because, you know, I agree. And you have to be strong with your client. But when it comes down to it, you'd rather lose doing what your client says than force them to do what you want to do. And then you go lose, because now it's on you. So you give them, I'm sure they wrote what we call CYA letters over and over. And this is what we would do. If you want to go up there and, you know, do this, you do your thing. And that's what it comes down to. So I think she could have won. I don't know if she should have won based on the facts, but I also think the fact that it was Johnny Depp with all this money, a normal person may not have won this case. I'll just say that as well. I think all of this stuff comes together, right? A normal person may have had a difficult time getting a law firm to even pick this case up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's
yes.
That's the
a normal person. Yes, you're exactly
come
right.
Out of the woodwork to testify for just, you know, average Joe. No offense.
Well, it
Joe,
wouldn't have been
you.
televised. It wouldn't have been televised. So you wouldn't have had the guy from the Hicksville trailer park and TMZ going, hey, by the way, that's not how that went down. Interesting that nobody came out of the woodwork like that to support Amber Heard.
Correct.
But there was almost two trials going on the defense side. There was one part of the defense with Rottenborn and their closing. It was all about the law. It's one, you know, we can talk about economic abuse. We can talk about all these different versions of abuse. But the case they put on with Amber was all about physical abuse. So even though they were trying to make the distinction between physical abuse and, hey, we have all these other abuses you can find, but all the evidence they put on was like she was physically abused. And if you didn't believe the physical abuse, they didn't give you economic abuse. They didn't give you anything else to hang that hat on. So I think that was the loss. But you can tell that fight was between what Amber wanted to go up there and say, I was an abuse victim in the physical realm. But to win the case, you had to say I was just an abuse victim. And it could be any of these types of abuse. And I think that's you saw that play, especially at closing. It was like, well, we don't have to prove the physical abuse, but she was also physically abused.
To Trago Law's points, that it's better to do what the client says and then lose. I suspect, I predict that Amber is going to turn on her attorneys afterwards and say, why'd you let me do this strategy? You're the professionals. And to anybody who's aspiring to be a lawyer out there, when you get someone who's onto their third lawyer and they say, the first one was bad, the second one wasn't paying attention, red flags should be going off, because by and large, it means more of a problem client than all the other lawyers that preceded you were bad or whatever. But I'll still forgive Elaine, because I think I'm siding more with Emily than with Joe. I think Amber was an uncontrollable client. They had their strategy. She went off into realms that were not strategy in terms of allegations on the stand. And yeah, had she stuck with psychological abuse through property damage and name calling, she could have created the illusion of at least verbal psychological abuse as opposed to Gone Girl, Pulp Fiction level alleged physical abuse.
And I agree with you. Elaine lost me. I didn't like her opening. My chat knows I called her umbrage because it felt like she was up there lecturing us all going, you must not tell lies. I felt personally victimized by her style of speaking, but I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. And I lost that when she mocked Johnny Depp's voice in court. I was like, I can't with this. And then when we got the post-mortem on the morning shows where she started throwing the judge and the jury under the bus, even though I liked the new haircut, I was like, I'm fucking out. There's no grace here. And, you know, Ben Chu has been graceful saying those are unfortunate. I don't like that she's calling out the judge. You know, evidence was kept out on both sides. But she's talking about evidence being suppressed, evidence that doesn't seem to be proper evidence. And it pisses me off.
The thing that she's referring to, like the Stephen Deuters text, which is hearsay. Like, I'm sorry, do you not understand? Elaine, we know you don't understand. We know
how is that ethical violation?
Are you telling us you also don't understand hearsay? I mean, I know a lot of law students have a lot of trouble with it.
Elaine doesn't understand hearsay. We learned that.
And by the way, the perfect response to Elaine is there was far more evidence that was introduced in the Virginia trial than the UK trial, which leads one to believe that the more you look at the evidence, the less you believe Amber Heard. So if you want to try to figure out which case should we rely on more, perhaps we should rely on the one where there's a great deal more more evidence.
Elaine said there was more evidence in the UK,
In the-
but that's just simply not true.
Well, there was more evidence for Amber Heard. If you look at all of the mental health diagnosis and notes and self-reporting and bolstering hearsay, that came in the UK trial.
A lot of that came in with Dr. Hughes, though, in this trial. Dr. Hughes snuck in a lot of that information.
Some of it, but I think that the whole more evidence, less evidence, like we have rules of evidence that take care of this stuff. We have judges, we have case law, we have statutes, we have appeals. There are the appellate courts. Like the evidence doesn't get inappropriately suppressed to the level that costs your client the case, and then we just all keep moving on. I don't
Rob
think
has thoughts too.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Rob, I know has thoughts. He's about to explode in the corner. And I'm sorry, Peter.
Because Rob was also very gracious towards Elaine, and so were others. I think overall, though there were some things I definitely poked fun at, a lot of people gave Elaine a lot of grace until, what was the turning point for you, Rob?
Oh, when she gaslit all actual survivors of domestic violence, telling them that they needed to have poser videos and be believed, basically making a mockery of the system that protects victims. She was okay. I held out hope. I defended her. She's a joke. And I have this message to Amber Heard. You can't discharge your obligation to Johnny Depp. But if you have an obligation, a financial obligation to Elaine Bredehoff, file bankruptcy and that guy goes bye-bye.
If only you weren't blocked by Eve Barlow, you could let her know this information that would help her friend.
I know. That would just be so helpful.
Rob, what? How?
Rob's like, don't pay your
what
lawyers. File for bankruptcy. Fuck those lawyers.
Rob, in Virginia, I know up here in New York, if I lose a jury verdict, I can't go and then say the jury's corrupt, right? That's ethical violation. Right? I can't say the jury's corrupt and they got, I can say, well, I disagree with the jury, that type of thing. She's going on and saying the jury violated their oath and all this stuff. How is this? No and evidence. Then throwing the judge into the bus. Yeah, usually you would have to have a good faith basis to make those allegations. She's just kind of just saying it. How is that just is that allowed there?
I've had people make lesser arguments for a good faith basis than 10 days off in the most watched trial and most TikTok tweeted trial in the world to be a good faith basis, even though I disagree with her. I think she's saying, I find it hard to believe they didn't go on there. I disagree with her, but I don't think it's rising to the level of calling the jury corrupt. Sorry, I just jumped on you, Rob. Sorry. Explain.
No, it's fine.
I did it to you.
I had to reply because Chanley tweeted out when she was supposed to have that interview with Elaine the next day. Chanley tweeted out like Elaine she just canceled, blah, 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 said that she had a quote, urgent court matter. And I think I responded like, you mean like maybe there was a motion filed that was asking questions why she was saying these things publicly and undermining the jury system and suggesting impropriety on behalf of the judge. Oh, and actually openly suggesting juror misconduct and looking at social media while there hasn't been a judgment entered. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of ass chewing that was going on in the back.
I think she made that up. I think Elaine didn't want to appear on Chanley. That's why I suspect happened there. Because
Chanley was so Chanley really, I think, went above and beyond with like stretching in the cap sleeve dresses to give Amber Heard's team the benefit of the doubt a lot of the time. I mean, I think Court TV was very complimentary to them. Sometimes
more than some of the other interviewers.
So. Yeah, I loved actually seeing the interviewers holding Elaine's feet to the fire on being like, well, what do you have to say about the jury not believing your client? I think she should have been prepared for that and saying, it's really unfortunate. There could have been ways to do that without trying to throw everyone else under the bus. And she just didn't.
But I love that her response was, it was Johnny Depp.
It was a tale of two trials. It was media trolls.
Johnny Depp, he's a celebrity. And then they're like, but Amber Heard's also a celebrity. Yeah, but he's more of a celebrity. And it was a tale of two trials. Like I just seeing her like slip.
Who knows
the juking that she did during that interview was very impressive.
It was like Amber on Cross, basically. You ask her a question, she goes somewhere else.
Yeah. And I mean, if you really want to avoid this content on social media, you can. I know because my boyfriend has. You just like there's no, if people aren't interested in it, they aren't interested in it. Like you can people have a modicum of control what's going on, because like I've been having all this going on. My boyfriend knows nothing about what's going on, but he's on social media on pretty much every platform, and he was like, I don't care about it, so I haven't been paying attention to it.
Natalie, that's a great point because my husband is like, what happened to the trial today? But he's on social media, but he's in like Snakes of Middle Tennessee Facebook groups and stuff. This is not what he cares about. And so if you don't click on a video, if you don't click on a TikTok, you're not going to get fed that from the algorithm. They're going to show you what you keep looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this jury is violating. And again, a lot of the coverage like ours is just showing the trial that they're seeing in real time anyway. Though I learned yesterday, I didn't know this. Did you all know this? That the LA Times actually reported that Jason Momoa testified based on those like, videos? I had no idea about that till yesterday.
That's
so even the media
live for like several hours, wasn't it?
Even the media watching the trial doesn't know what's happening because they're getting duped by TikTok. It's so bananas.
Hey,
it was within 24 hours of Taylor Lorenz's article.
Quick question to the panel, because I'm getting this question a lot. Did Johnny Depp win this trial, or did Amber Heard lose this trial?
Amber Heard lost this trial for herself.
Amber Heard lost.
She lost.
I would say both though, because there was good lawyering on Johnny Depp's side too.
The facts were on Johnny Depp's side, but when Amber Heard got up and made certain allegations of the most extreme form of violence you could possibly imagine, and then had a picture of Johnny Depp sleeping with ice cream on his pants, that ends the trial as far as any credibility for her goes. Johnny really didn't have to prove much to prove malice. She did it on the stand.
What do you call that? The ice cream? He had such a...
Vomitus.
Oh,
Dr. Doofenshmirtz said, I was told it was vomitus.
No, festival of ice cream is what Johnny Depp called it.
That's what Johnny Depp called it.
I love his colorations of things.
But the fact that their expert said, well, I was told by their team that it was vomit also makes their entire team look bad. It made their entire team look bad.
On that expert, a bunch of people writing in saying that they got the wrong Dr. Spiegel.
Oh God,
they were
That's not possible.
They were making.
I don't know. The argument has been pretty compellingly made, and if it is true,
they did a deposition. They had his CV. They had his expert declaration.
It was
an impossibility.
But the joke was
impossible. Would it really shock any of you that Elaine's
it's
team?
Impossible. There's no way.
What happened was that social media was trying to find the Spiegel to terrorize him on the internet, and some other doctor with the name Spiegel was getting mocked and emailed and everything. He says, "I'm not that doctor." That's what they meant when they got the wrong part.
And then people looked at his CV and they're like, "Wait, actually, you might have been a better person to testify."
He might have been a better choice, but there's no way they thought they were getting one and getting the other with everything they go through to get these witnesses to testify. He would have shown up for deposition, and they would have been like,
Someone made the Schmiegel sound, and I was like,
by the way, I
would have been a way better choice.
I have a theory about that doctor. That doctor was not told by Amber's team it was vomitus. He never asked. He presumed, and then he just tried to make that the excuse as to why he thought.
Well, he was a quack because wasn't his baseline for Johnny watching Johnny
commercials
Depp Pirates?
He called Johnny Depp an idiot.
He charged Amber Heard's legal team thousands of dollars to watch Pirates of the Caribbean.
If you could do it,
and they call the YouTubers grifters. You want to look at somebody grifting? Look at Dr. Spiegel charging to watch Pirates.
So compare the legal teams. Look at the experts they chose. You have Dr. Curry, who's probably one of the most likable experts I've ever seen on the stand. And then you have.
I died when she was in my chat. I died. I fell over and died. I fangirl died.
She was in your chat?
She watched the verdict with us. It was
awesome.
It was really
We should have invited her on.
All hail Emily.
I have invited her on.
Hail Emily. I'm in awe.
I was floored. I really liked her as an expert. The experts, I was looking for a good battle of the expert.
Johnny Depp watched the verdict with Emily Baker.
I was looking for a good battle of the experts because we're seeing two parties with more money than most parties can muster for a legal battle like this. And I was just ready for the spectacle of the experts being like, this is this and that is that. And then we got one side with incredible experts, and we got Dr. Doofenshmirtz and Mrs. like only females are victims. And I was so disappointed. Yeah, I was just disappointed.
Something I wanted to add. I just heard the word grifter, and I've been thinking about it while I've been listening to you guys. And I don't stream, obviously. I've said that many times. Something that it actually kind of bothers me that you guys get called grifters, because I don't see what's wrong in paying people for something that has value. Like,
we love it.
And that's appreciated. I'm just saying that's my one. That's
Yeah.
just my little thing. Is I'm telling all of you.
We're community supported creators, because otherwise we would be doing, if we weren't doing this in a way that we could support ourselves, we would be billing legal clients. So it would either be, hey, we're community supported, or we're billing legal clients. I just think it's funny watching the legacy media freak out. It's like, they're making money. I'm like, your shit's behind a paywall.
I think Nick started that. I think Nick started that to own the term and to get it out there ahead. So you call yourself that, and you play with it, and you make it a joke. So then when you get accused of it, it's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we're grifting. Go ahead, whatever.
Well,
we don't care.
We learned that from Eminem.
There's two terms. There's grifter and grafter, which grafter under English UK definition means someone who works hard. So I just say they're pronouncing it improperly. It's grafters.
I just think it's the reason I bring it up is because, again, if you've got an expert charging someone to watch Pirates movies as a baseline, I think that definitely totes the line on the grift. But
it does.
He also toted the line on ethical violations, and I think Team Depp did a great job of pointing those out to a jury that might not otherwise be technically inclined. I think all of our chats were like, how is this ethical? And then they came back around to it on Dennison's Cross, and it's like, oh, because it's not.
The one thing I think Dennison missed with that is that when he proclaimed there's no expert that could give an expert opinion in this courtroom and do it under these rules, Dennison missed. He said, no, we've already had two. We had Hughes and we had Curry. Hughes, for instance, got permission from Amber, so she was good. She didn't violate the rule, and Curry got a court order, so she didn't violate the rule. The only person there that was violating the ethical rule was him. But I think Dennison just missed it because you had two other psychologists give expert testimony and didn't violate the rules. But again, I still think he won it. But I think that was the crushing moment that he could have easily made that point.
Okay, I think my favorite of his crosses, though. Of all of Dennison crosses, that was my favorite of his crosses.
Oh yeah.
When he asked about what about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think everyone just about died. It was one of the best moments in court. Did you see that, Natalie? When the expert is sitting there going, and then he looks at the judge and goes, "Do I have to answer that?" It was.
I think that was something I watched at like 1.75 speed. So I was there, but I don't know if I watched it, but I don't know if I got the full appreciation.
Look at the TikTok clips of it.
What did Dr. Schmeigel look like at 1.75 speed doing this? Like,
it was just like,
do I have to answer that question?
Yikes.
It really just looked like he was stroking his face, like he's supposed to be in a Boys Men video or something.
Jumping in with the chat, people are asking about super chats. I know they're all here. I haven't been doing it, and I will be doing it, but this is why. Hi, isn't this enjoyable? Does everybody like to see faces covered, especially the nicest looking faces of the panel? Sorry, folks, but it's true. Got the beauty on the bottom, and I would shift this around.
You should.
But
you should.
It is difficult to do. So that's what's going on. So I will be getting into the super chats before too long, because I know that people will probably be saying, okay, I got an appointment, Eric. I can't be hanging out here all day.
Well, I do have an appointment, and good thing you just said that right now, because I got to go by 1:30. So it's wonderful seeing all of you and arguing with you guys. And I wish I could.
No arguments.
That's true.
Just discussions.
Party
discussions.
Speaking of which, I actually offer. Oh, great seeing you, Nate. I mean, you're out.
Yeah. I got to run.
Nate, thank you, man.
Thank you.
See you, Nate.
All right. See you, Nate.
Nate's not sure if he's getting booted or if he's leaving.
No, I've hit the button like 3 times.
He's like, I'm trying
now
to
we won't let him go.
Let me go.
Hotel California stream.
Nate has been falsely imprisoned in the chat. He's not allowed to leave.
He's going to file a suit against Hunley.
Yeah, why not?
I think I would go after wave.video first, because, pockets.
Yes.
It's fair.
Good point.
Did you guys? I'm sorry. I just want to ask.
Go for it, Joe. Go for it.
You sure? I want to ask because I noticed Ben Chu was complimenting Dennison as if he was the greatest cross-examiner of expert witnesses he's ever seen. So my question is, if I can get from you guys feedback as to what you thought of Dennison and his role in this trial.
I thought he did well. Not every point, but overall, I thought he did a good job.
I think they could have used somebody else on the tech stuff. I think he did really well with the medical stuff. And I think they could have used a different attorney with the tech experts. I don't think he was as good with them.
Fair point. Yeah.
I think he was medium. I would say
Did you hear he was the bad cop to prep that for Cross?
Yep.
Oh,
I thought that was very interesting in the interview with Chanley.
Yeah.
Yep.
I personally was not a fan of Dennison at all. I thought that his cross of Dr. Hughes which was ripe. It was nearly as ripe to take her head off the way Amber Heard's head was ripe to be taken off by Camille, and I felt as if he completely whiffed on it. And with the tech guy, I felt he struck out. I mean, look, he did a great job in saying #AmberTurd and #Justice for Johnny, and basically highlighting that over and over again. That was nice, but honestly, I graded him personally. I graded him as poor, far lower than what we saw from Camille. But yeah,
I thought he was doing the Columbo thing, and I kind of wonder because it seems like he was effective sneakily. Like it didn't seem like he was effective, but he did get a lot of things out there. So I don't know.
Personality-wise, he was the good choice though for those witnesses, is because he doesn't have an overbearing personality. So you're going to let him, sort of especially on direct, the experts be the attraction themselves instead of being sort of distracting from them. I mean, he's subtle. I think that he was more of a long game type of move because it is a team and not every team player is going to be the quarterback. Somebody has to be the brunt person at some time. And I mean, that might have just been the way that their roles worked out. I mean, I think that there obviously could have been better work with certain things, but I mean, it is just, I think, a stylistic difference. He seems a little more formal, but I don't think he was ineffective in any way. I think it was just perhaps different than it could have been. When you look at the trial in a big picture as opposed to just the witness itself.
Did you guys, Natalie, get to do mock testimony with Kyle leading up to the trial? Is that something you've discussed? If it's something you can't answer.
we did mock juries. That's something that's been all over that Mark's talked about extensively.
I just didn't remember. It must be, I mean, and again, as a state level prosecutor, sometimes you didn't even get to meet your witnesses until they were in the hallway before they were on the stand because that's how life works.
Some of the state's witnesses only showed up because we subpoenaed them and they wanted, they knew we were going to call them anyway. Like Richie McGinnis was not correctly subpoenaed. He's an out-of-state witness. He was not correctly subpoenaed. They mailed him a subpoena.
Come on now.
He came to the trial because he came to the trial because we asked him to.
Wow. Right. That's wow. But it was just it's nice to watch these large
well, I mean,
issuing a subpoena outside of your jurisdiction. If I sign a subpoena as an attorney right now and send it outside of Virginia to try and compel somebody, I get my butt sanctioned.
Really?
I'm not trying to enforce it. It's hey, I'm sending you a subpoena. Here's notice. You can't try to enforce it. Enforcing it's a problem, but you can call someone and be like, hey, I've given you the subpoena. You can give it to your boss. You can come. But generally, you have to go naturalize them in other courts. It's a whole I mean,
thing. And some of the state's witnesses, it's just poor county practice. They're in the practice of mailing subpoenas to people. There were a number of witnesses who on the other side were subpoenaed because they got a subpoena in the mail. It's not proper service. No. Only showed up because we served them properly and discussed it with them. They told us there were multiple people who were like, I'm not going to honor this subpoena, but if you were going to do it to me anyway, and there were some people who ended up being their direct. That was something a lot of people were like, their direct witnesses seemed like our witnesses. Well, I mean, they were a lot of them because some of them wouldn't have showed up because they weren't even served properly.
Wow. That I didn't know, but it's one of the things watching this trial that's been so wild. Watching the large legal teams working together, because that's just not something I ever had the advantage of doing. So it was really fun to look at. So Natalie, thank you for that. That's wow. That's something else. I know that I think Mark was just in California giving a talk. I had a couple of friends who were
he was. Joe Allen Demetrius was there as well. And there was a federal prosecutor there. That was a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yep. I had friends that were there and they were like, you watched the Rittenhouse case, right? We really like this guy. I'm like, I know you were all busy working, but yes, he would.
And that's something else. Is Richards comes off a lot different in person than he does on TV. That was something for all the Richards haters out there. Is he very much is an in-person, down-home type of person?
No, the other
lawyers did
lawyers
speak well
love him.
with the people that we were dealing with.
Natalie, actually, one totally random question. If you don't want to answer it, don't answer it. Is Binger as much of a detestable human being on a cellular level in real life as he
That is
appears
such
to
a
be?
difficult question. She practices in the jurisdiction.
I personally, I have no problems with him. He's been nothing but polite to me personally.
Okay,
because he's the one who gave me the real drone footage.
Well, I just wonder because like you get an impression from someone online. Well, when you only see them, through the screen. And you get your own impression, like Peter Sarsgaard, the actor. I think I love the guy. I think he's a very nice human being, but he could be the biggest jerk on earth. Binger gave off jerk vibes in everything that he did and said in that trial. And I wondered, on a human level, is he actually that much of a loathsome human that he appeared to be through demeanor?
I mean, I'm not a member of the Kenosha Bar. My office is in Racine. We work a lot at Kenosha. I don't have kids. So I have that connection that a lot of people have. It's like, oh, your kids go to the same school as my kids do, or like we know each other from things around that or activities. I've never dealt with him in a personal context. My only interactions with him have been related to work or in the courtroom, things like that. So, I mean, I honestly can't say how he's like personally, because I really don't know. I mean, that's just, I don't have a friendship.
Natalie,
really.
Important question. I saw come in. It's perfect. Did Mark Richards ever hear Ricada's impression of him?
I don't know. Heard it? I don't know. I've told him about it. I mean, and we have the Havoc glass at the office that I've tweeted about before. I mean, and no, I told him I was like your pronunciation of Havoc has, really been like a big thing on the internet. That was hilarious.
Did he ever get my shirt?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
He's just like, I don't know. I think it's more the medium. This type of thing is just foreign to him, being uncomfortable with this type of setting. And like, contrarily, this is like, the more setting I'm comfortable with. So I think it's more, he likes knowing what his expectations are. And that's why he had done more, formal interviews versus
He's sort of like Ben Shu, isn't he? In the sense that they both don't seem to be striving for the limelight. Or is that a bad comparison? Look behind you, David.
I really don't know enough about Ben Shu. I'm not going to make a comparison about that.
I had to pick a kid up at school early today. He got bitten on the corner of the eye by a black fly. Do you want to show the world what it
Ouch.
is?
Oh
my. The only thing is,
buddy.
Everyone knows I'm neurotic, and I'm worried about it turning into like cellulitis or some eye infection. Thus far, it's just a very bad reaction. It's just look at that. Don't turn it this way.
Oh no!
Right on the corner.
I've heard that Amica cream does wonders,
but not arnica.
Maybe
Make
just
sure
a
you get
little
Amica,
bit of
not
ice.
arnica.
Just a little ice.
We've done ice. We have those iPads that you put in the freezer. Reactin, which has been making him very tired and cranky.
I also use some really good makeup can cover up the swelling.
Natalie, can I ask you one question that's been bothering me for a long time? I speculated that Binger pushed the rules of violating the Fifth Amendment privilege because he had practiced in front of Schrader many, maybe hundreds of times, and that he knows enough about Schrader's personality that he assesses him as someone who's all bark and no bite, and that he could push that. Oh, there we go. So my question was, do you, from what you know of Schrader, I don't know how often you've appeared in front of him. Do you think it's possible that Binger figured, you know what I'm about to say here now, an accusing Kyle not of waiting and remaining silent this entire time is really pushing a breach of his Fifth Amendment rights, and I'm probably going to get chastised by Schrader, but there's no chance in hell that I'm going to get sanctioned or it's going to have any sort of genuine backlash on me, or did he just, or do you think that he wasn't acting with that reliance on Schrader's personality?
I don't think he was acting with any reliance on Schrader's personality.
Okay, because I thought that was
crazy. I've got to take off, guys. See ya.
Hey, thank you so much for showing up, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Eventually. You're
Finding
trapped
your
too.
way out.
Yeah.
All right, good.
It's funny because it's different enough from StreamYard that all of us are just like, wait.
It's and I keep getting like the back end keeps going completely blank.
Me too. It's happened to me twice now.
It's odd. Yeah.
Sorry,
I
they're
don't
working
want,
on it.
I don't want to start the mass exodus. I'm going to duck out too, but Eric, I'm going to send you a picture of what the bug bites started off as. And I know there's doctors. When do I have to be worried about like that 1 in a million eye infection? Or it wasn't a tick. It was a little black fly. And it's like, oh, look at that. And we're in the city. So I was like, oh, no. And now
call your pediatrician.
Well, so I called my pediatrician.
Picture.
I sent the picture. They said it's fine, reacting and whatever.
And then my husband, whenever he dealt with swelling at work, and I did work as an EMT a little bit, when we dealt with swelling, if you're really worried about how big the swelling's getting, you can put a little bit of a marker that's washable on the edge of the swelling to see how much more swollen it gets, to keep an eye on tracking the swelling. But you can also take photos kind of at the same angle to track the swelling. But the face
Make
is
sure
really,
you do it in
really
proper lighting,
vasculated.
unlike Amber Heard.
Proper lighting. The
so
face
far-
is really vasculated. It will drain. It will, as long as there's not pain and stuff. But listen to your pediatrician. Take the Benadryl or whatever you guys have in Canada, the version of that antihistamine.
Yeah,
Viva, don't listen to Emily. She's got all kinds of logic and sense. Crowdsource your information.
Well, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, ask Twitter. No, ask Twitter.
Twitter's. I was going to go ask our locals community at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I know we have doctors there. So Amica, cucumber, ice. We're going to go do that right now. And after we're done with the cucumber, I'll leave.
Antihistamine, track the swelling.
Okay, done. Emily, everyone, it was good to see you all.
Good to see you, Viva.
Bye, Viva.
Now, how do I get out of here? I got to go click on that.
Yeah, you
button
don't
over
get to
there, and
leave.
now leave.
It's like the Hotel California.
There's a leave
You
button.
can check out, but you can never leave.
Oh, yes. Now I have super chat room. I mean,
Yeah,
not that
there
I was
you go.
happy for lawyers to leave, but I feel like this is good. And Georgina is a longtime fan. Thank you so much, Georgina. As always, you're amazing, amazing, amazing. But
It's such a hard thing when your kiddos get stuff.
Oh, that
just
was
takes
crazy.
over your whole day. Yep.
You see, with David, I'm sure if it was him, he would probably be like bragging about, look at that. That's a good one. But if it's your kid, I can only imagine you're like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
One of my supervisors at work ages and ages ago was a very, very kind of gruff, former military, straight-laced attorney who I was kind of terrified of most of the time. And he came into work on a Monday with the largest black eye I've ever seen. And I'm like, oh my God, what in the world happened to you? He's like, I was photographing my son's baseball game and got hit with a fly ball. And that was able to kind of open up a door of like, oh, you're a human. But I have never seen a huge swollen black eye quite like that. It was just wild. And it was weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks for that bruising to go away.
You mean it didn't clear up in like 2 days?
Oh, that works with ice. Just use ice.
I don't think he had Amica cream is the problem.
I think so.
Yeah.
I hear it does wonders.
People are asking about the Redlick trial. Unfortunately, Peter's not here. He's in Florida, but
I know Court TV is covering it right now in Florida. I was going to pop over and see if it was any good. I don't know. It's stabbing a father-in-law. I don't know the facts of the case.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get caught up on Housewives and on Chrisley and on Tati. There's a lot going. Like
Chrisley just got convicted, right?
Chrisley just got convicted. Yep,
and his wife, I guess,
and his accountant. The thing about the feds.
When is sentencing supposed to be?
Sentencing. I tweeted it. I think it's in October. I tweeted it yesterday.
Wow.
So I think it's in October.
What are the ranges? What are the ranges that they're looking at?
I haven't added it up myself. The media keeps reporting 30 plus years, but I don't know if some of those counts are lesser included. I need to go look at it. I haven't done a deep dive into this because so much else was going on. So it's one of the next things. White collar crime was always my favorite. So, when you're looking at things like, fraud and money laundering and wire fraud, the feds have a real big hammer on those cases, and they can fit almost anything into being a nail on those cases. Not always properly, but we're gonna take a look at that. So
This is
You
a
know-
really valid super chat. I did want to get in, not just because of money, but we do overlook the fact that Johnny Depp had the money to recover his name, etc. Whereas most people get the accusation and they have very little choice but to plead guilty and then take some classes and move on, because otherwise their lives are completely interrupted. So
it's something
a
I've talked about on
problem.
my channel a lot, actually, is that it's a very fair point that most people don't have the money to go through $10 million plus of a legal case. Even with the Cardi B case had substantially less litigation, and it was still like a $4 million over $1.4 million in legal fees and like a $4 million judgment. And that case only went on for about a year and a half. So the defamation cases in public figures are very expensive.
I mean, any kind of lawsuit is going to be super expensive, especially if it goes all the way to trial. But yeah, those are no exception.
This is for you, Emily. Can you comment on whether the video quality issue is intentional or an oversight mistake? I don't know what.
I think that's a Natalie Wisco question regarding them getting a lesser quality video during the Rittenhouse case. I don't think that's an Emily question. I think that's a Natalie question. That's at least how I read it.
Oh, man. I'm going to direct people to Alita's previous stream that I did with her, just because there's a lot to unpack with that. And I don't really want to monopolize everyone's time, because there's just so much behind that. I still don't really know what happened. I believe that there was either intentional or negligent mishandling of evidence, perhaps. But whether it was intentional or negligent, I mean, I think the cases we've been watching have, led us all to believe maybe we shouldn't rush to judgments. I'm open to hear both sides of it.
You are a very, very classy person, Natalie.
I mean, not a whole fucking lot. It's more.
Natalie likes her license, and she's not going to say something without.
I also understand, like, the whole world's not about me, and I have my perception of things and my interpretation of things, but I also do know that I am in a position where I am obviously going to be perhaps very biased by the situation. A lot of it is, it's really hard to describe. It's a very strange position to be in, with that. So I'm just.
Well, you're an advocate. You're an advocate, and so you're supposed to be biased. Like, that's where you're supposed to be biased. You're an advocate for your client, but the prosecution isn't supposed to hide anything. That should, I was a prosecutor for over 10 years. That should never happen. It should never happen.
My general opinion is, regardless whether it was intentional or not, it doesn't matter.
It should never happen. Yeah, it should never happen.
Yeah, that's the thing is, and after this all came up, that hearing, I went back into the back, and, Binger asked me whether, he's like, do you think we did this on purpose? And I was like, you and I both know, Tom, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is a good question for everybody here. Each of you, dead or alive, who's one lawyer in history that you would love to sit down and discuss the case they did, and did the lawyer make an impact on your own lawyering?
I mean, honestly, I'd like to talk to Jody Harris's attorney, just to, hear horror stories, but because that would be an interesting trial to be part of.
That would be a great
Her
conversation.
butthole was part of evidence.
Okay, Rob.
Wait, what case?
Perfect.
Arias.
Jody Arias.
Yeah.
Literally. Her butthole, a picture of her butthole is in evidence. Like,
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Now it's your turn, Rob. Move.
Is this new information? Wait. This is new information to Rob.
I know.
I don't know anything about this either.
I didn't either.
Jody Arias? Oh god. Jody Arias killed her, murdered her boyfriend. And
Sorry, my brain was on pause.
No, there was a camera that they had been taking, like, dirty pictures with and stuff, that she tried to destroy by putting it in the wash. But the washing machine, they still got the card out, and there's bunches of, like, sexy pictures and stuff. And then it turns into, like, her taking pictures of him as he's bleeding out after she.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I knew
why
about that,
focus
but
on
I didn't
the
get
butthole?
the detail in the that part. So Rob, you're a lawyer you want to talk to. We'll just go on that one.
Paul Clement.
Who is?
He's a Supreme Court advocate. Basically, so several people will have like one opportunity their entire life to argue in front of the Supreme Court. Paul Clement takes on like 15 cases a term. It is crazy. His level of knowledge and intelligence, and he's also probably one of the only attorneys I've ever seen quite literally look back at one of the justices and say, "Justice, I think you're viewing that wrong." Like literally saying, "No, you're being an idiot." Like he's got that type of swag. Like he's just
wow. He gets away with it.
Oh yeah, he's got that
to
confidence.
Thomas or Alito.
Yeah, kind of.
Wow. Emily,
I'm going with fictional lawyers.
Okay.
Woods.
Okay.
And alternatively, just Reese Witherspoon about what it was like prepping and playing that role of iconic lawyer. But that movie came out as I was prepping to go to law school and studying for the LSAT. So I would love to meet the lawyers that are behind like the lawyer movie and TV shows. Like who are doing, the set and the I don't even remember what it's called, but when you do the checks on the set and stuff to make sure that
and
things
why
are
do they do such
the
a
way they would
terrible
flow.
job?
I want to know. Like I'm so curious, but yeah, I'm sure there are real life lawyers. It's just my brain is so in pop culture right now that that's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who did Michael Jackson, that would be a pop culture lawyer who's tremendous and won that case for him. Tom, I forget his name. I know Barnes. I think Barnes knows him personally. But Joe.
I'd love to meet Richard Marx. My God, the life this guy led.
That's a very good answer. I want him to have a book, Joe. A book.
Yes, he testified. He was the expert. He was the expert testimony. Who called himself the deal maker in Hollywood. He's the one who negotiated. He's the one who negotiated the deals for like the Star Wars action figures, and merchandise, and
yes.
And this guy basically. I don't know. He was the one who, like, I think inspired that. He's like, no, Rocky, I think that at the end of the movie, you should be running up the stairs instead of like down to the lake. And everyone's like, oh yeah, let's try it that way. And it becomes like, he's like Mr. Iconic movie moment throughout for the last 4 decades. And
look at you, Joe. And he's also the guy who managed to figure out that merchandising will turn the biggest dollar out there. And I know that you're practicing the
king of grift.
He's
the king of grift.
Exactly.
He's amazing. I'm sure that the Pope of Law 2 himself would worship at the altar of Richard Marx. So there you go.
Would. Yeah. Joe, I'm stealing your answer. Because that like sitting down over lunch with him for like several hours, that it would just be him talking about how awesome he is, but I wouldn't even care. I would just be like, yeah, you are awesome. Like,
I want to hear the stories. Like lawyers
Yeah.
love telling war stories. Lawyers love to tell their stories. And there's always interesting stories to be had when you sit down with somebody with a whiskey and just get to have conversations off the record. And there's kind of this commonality of those stories stay, like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And that's one of the nice things about getting together with other lawyers that are like really actually fun people to be around. Not all lawyers are like that. Some are really up their own butt, but it's not the majority.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'll choose Jerry Spence.
I mean, the chat is loving this question, by the way. Like,
awesome.
Everyone throwing in their 2 cents.
Perfect.
But Jerry Spence had the perfect one. He had the sheriff who killed one of his deputies. They had a shootout, and in the middle of the courtroom had a quick draw champion literally faced one of the deputies holding the gun, and the quick draw guy was able to do a full draw and get a shot off before the deputy could pull the trigger. The deputy was holding the gun out. And the question he had for that quick draw guy was, well, how is the sheriff? And he said, he's slightly faster than me. And he won the case. The sheriff was exonerated for considered a point blank killing. He has never lost a case in his entire career.
I think I'm going to add one that's a real life lawyer because I've been thinking about this a lot. I got at the LA County DA's office, we did work with a lot of the prosecutors from the OJ case, and we did trainings with them and things. But Marcia Clark had already left the office, and I would love to talk about the behind the scenes of what went on with our office, what went on with one of these first big media cases where her looks were excoriated by the media. I think that would be a really, really interesting, like on the low conversation, not just about her experience with that kind of a case, but her experience with our former office. I think that might be really, really interesting. So I'm going to add Marcia Clark to the list.
I like it.
Awesome. Okay, this is for everybody. What's your opinion on the Law and Crime host saying after his Ben Chu interview, I wonder how much more prepared and scripted JD was?
Scripted.
I didn't see that.
I rewatched that again.
I didn't see it either.
I rewatched that again. I don't really have a problem with it because at the end of the day, in direct testimony, you need to know what your client's going to say. And sometimes them plugging in specific words because they'll say something that they think has impact. And then they say it out loud and you're just like, ooh, that's not going to play. You run through a trial prep and you do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that he at least walked through and at least scripted a bit of his narrative.
I mean, of course they should have walked through his testimony. That's just prepping your client for a large, I mean, and we heard Amber Heard talk about this too, not to say it's nefarious on either side. Amber Heard said, I've had a lot of time to go back through this. I went through all of my diaries, my therapy notes, my docs. Like she went through everything contemporaneous to help bolster her memory or craft a narrative, depending on what side of that you're on. But I think that's a fair thing. Did you guys catch when Chanley Painter was interviewing Ben Chu when he was being kind of gracious towards Elaine Bredehoff, saying that it was unfortunate and maybe she misspoke when saying the evidence was suppressed? Chanley Painter goes, okay. And in a I don't believe that at all, which was a really interesting little moment. I rewound it like 3 times. I'm like, oh, interesting. He's like, oh, maybe she just misspoke about the suppressant. And she goes, okay. Like
we were just covering her last night, and she does not hide her feelings very well because she finished one question, she looks down, she ooh, and then like you can just see her go, oh, I want this question.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Which I like. I want to be able to see. I want to be able to see some excitement and interest in people.
I was urging her to go independent when I met her in Fairfax. I was like, you don't want to be here. You want to go independent. Mainstream media is so ancient. You want to go independent. I was like pushing her down that road. So,
I want to know what her budget was for clothes for every day. I mean, she had different dresses on every single day of that. A very long trial. That would have been very stressful.
They have the wardrobe department, maybe?
I doubt that Court TV has a wardrobe department for their remote correspondence.
True.
Yeah.
I doubt it because most people in especially local news, weather and things, they dress themselves.
Oh God, this is
it's
a
pretty
good
funny
point.
that she said, sure, Jan. Sure, Jan.
Not everybody wants to have a YouTube channel or a podcast.
Here's a good mic drop on about Amber Heard. AH needs to learn from Raylan Givens. Anybody who's watched not Deadwood, but Justified, fantastic show. If you run into an asshole in the morning, you run into an asshole. If you run into assholes all day, you're the asshole. Words to live by for her.
I mean, maybe for everybody, though.
Are you guys going through withdrawal?
No. I was pretty oversaturated by the end. But you know, it's still it's still nice to do some of the postmortems and stuff like that. But it's like by the end, I was like, I think I slept like the following Friday or something. I think I slept like most of that day. Like I woke up every once in a while to do things and then like slept again for a few hours at a time.
On verdict day, I was like, please give us a verdict today. Please, for the love of God. Please let it end already.
Verdict day could not have come at a better time for me in my life, because then by Friday, I mean, I worked like all day Thursday, most of the day Friday, and then hopped on all day Wednesday, most of the day Thursday, and then hopped on a plane late in the day Thursday night and went to a concert on Friday. So I was very thankful that the verdict came down when it did so I could be away for the weekend. But this week I've been catching up because I did concert things all weekend, and concert weekends are not sleep weekends. So this week has been trying to catch up with all the other cases that have been on the back burner, because a lot of us cover so many different things. It's like, what's going on in this? It's like, I don't know. They've been filing lots of documents. We're catching up. So no, I'm not in withdrawal. I'm in catch up mode.
Question. strategy optics for the full panel. Assuming AH's lawyers experts are better, should they have had a male IPV expert and a female cross-examiner for JD?
I don't understand.
So just the judgment call on having Rottenborn cross JD, or would you have a female doing the cross of Johnny Depp? I think that you need a male crossing a male on that one. You can't do the female crossing because Depp's not going to rise to that fight. He's not going to fight. So
I think it depends upon the female who you've got on your team.
True.
I think Elaine, it would not have gone well. Maybe.
Oh God.
Oh God, no.
That's the thing is, what are our other options? You have to look at what are our options right now, and you only can pick what you have. So, I mean,
I also think Rottenborn should have done the direct of Amber Heard. I thought their chemistry was much better on rebuttal.
Yes. He was so much more effective.
Yep, much more.
Well, we see that about Elaine on just about everybody. I mean,
well, I think he did rebuttal because their chemistry was so bad the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder how much behind the scenes they were mad at each other, because it felt like they were fighting with each other from the stand. Like Elaine was like, I'm like trying to ask this. And then Amber's answer would go way off the rails. And then there would be an objection and Elaine would be like, I'm trying to bring it back. That's the moments where you definitely saw her trying to rein in her client, and her client was not playing.
Well, and I guess, and the thing though about Elaine doing her direct is that also feeds into the optics for what's going on. Is you have a woman questioning a woman about this emotional topic, and it allows you to, you know, connect with that narrative in a way, because it, you know, I think that in a way is appearances, the fact that she did it initially, you know, because who is it going to look better with? Well, if you're trying to perpetuate a cause, I mean, you probably want Elaine doing it.
That's fair.
Everybody, I gotta go, but it's been great.
Singer, Natalie.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. It's right.
I gotta go over to jail now that it's open. So.
Oh, well, congratulations.
I
have a happy trip to jail.
Lunch hour's over. Got people to see.
I'm gonna jump as well.
I have to leave as well.
Oh God, we're all leaving.
Wow. Okay.
No, it's right at the top of the hour. Bye, Chad. Bye, Eric. Thank you for having us.
Great seeing you, Emily.
Good to
have
see
an
you.
appointment too. See you, Emily. See you, Natalie.
Bye, everybody. Good to.
Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Wow.
I will.
Bye, guys. Sorry, I'm trying. I have a 2:00.
Oh, no.
It's just me and Eric.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Joe will hang out. Thank you, Joe.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. There you
Wow.
go. There you go.
Okay.
I don't know what
Let's
these
see.
people are. Oh my God, that's too big.
Well, this is good because then we put the chats and we can interact more directly with the chats.
Look,
because
I'm here
great
for you, brother.
people.
I'm here for you, brother. We
Thank
boomers
you.
have to stick together.
Xers, dude. Xers.
No.
We're going to have that out. You know what? We will have to do an episode just literally debating that out.
That's fine.
Because I'm sorry, I'll crush you. I have the facts.
All right.
Can't help it. I have the facts, my brother.
All right.
Thank you, Wendy's Cafe. Of course, I'm looking at all the beautiful people on the screen.
Look at all the beautiful people.
The beautiful people left.
Wait, no. Why? Why are you saying that? I think it was targeting us.
Oh, I'll take it. To be fair, Rackets is the Pope of grifting, but Joe's trying. Joe will get there.
He's my mentor. He really is. He's great. He's great, and I have nothing but.
And don't count out Jeremy from the quartering.
I was watching them last night. Did you see them last night? And they were.
I listened to part of it about the shaving, and I catch it later.
Yeah, that was such a great stream last night, and I was sitting there in awe of both of them. So,
thank you, Maddie, very, very, very much.
There you go.
Unbreaded. There you go. You got the unbreaded icons.
Unbreaded forever. Unbreaded forever.
Totally agree with this. Chief difference between LawTubers and legacy media. LawTubers are voluntary, crowdfunded, not corporate sponsored. All true. I mean, you. Even I'm in the picture. What is your thought on that? The whole picture with the LawTube. Like, I was flattered to be in the company, but then I'm always a little, I'm like, I'm not a lawyer. I just know lawyers, and
there are a lot of different interpretations as to what LawTube means. Like, what the hell does it really mean? I'm fairly certain that I've come up with the definitive answer as to what LawTube means. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on a video that's taking a lot of time to walk everyone through the rise and fall of LawTube.
and I actually look at you as the godfather of it. Everyone named, I do. No, because you were, you know what? The essential part of it is it's not an individual attorney streaming, but it's a group of attorneys who are interacting with each other on both personal and professional levels, which feels far more comfortable to the viewer and is able to enable the viewers to enjoy difference of opinion and healthy discourse / debate, where people feel very strongly and yet are able to walk out with completely complete friendship, not any sort of animus at all, and just but expressing why they disagree with each other. And you were doing that long before the Rittenhouse trial. You were the first one that I know of who was assembling panels of attorneys. So to me, that's the progenitor of what LawTube ultimately became. LawTube is not LawTube if it's just Nick Rekieta, or if it's just lawyer or just Emily Baker. I mean, we all are associated with the name LawTube, but that's because of the fact that we were all associated with Rittenhouse or the Depp trial. But that concept of bringing attorneys together to share different opinions and working independently at the same time, that all came from you. I mean, you were the first. Did you see anyone else who did it before you that I should give credit to ahead of you?
I don't know about the panel. And I never created panels. Panels have been around forever. So I kind of am like
a panel specifically of attorneys.
Yeah, that was an accidental thing just because of I don't know why I get along with attorneys, but I'm really good friends with David and Nate and get on with Barnes. So it just kind of started accumulating, and then you guys talk to each other, and that sort of has gathered over time. And
I will say this: I don't think LawTube is a movement. I think it's something different from a movement, but which a lot of people think it is. But I've thought about this a great deal, and when God willing, when I drop my video, you guys will see that I think most people will agree with me that I kind of nailed it as far as assessing what LawTube is and is not. So,
cool.
Yeah. That's
I think maybe it's a mentality, is what you're saying. Kind of like a thought pattern or spirit in terms of conviviality. Or
I can't give away the whole store. So,
okay.
But yeah,
I'm trying to grift, man. I'll just get it out here.
Yeah.
You're preemptively doing that. By the way, I wanted to bring this up in the stream. Not everybody's here, and it's always hectic. Joe, you can confirm this. It's very difficult when you have a bunch of people on a stream to, interrupt, share, or whatever. I always feel like, okay, I just want to let it go, and eventually I'll get good at it. But I have an editor who has really, really helped me a great deal. He's volunteered to do stuff for me before I had anybody following or anything else. And right now his mother's in the hospital and fighting cancer, and they live literally on government funding just to pay bills, things like that. He set up a GoFundMe, and I asked him to also set up a GiveSendGo, and I've put both of these links in the description. Yeah. So anybody who's here, if you mind, and please don't send me a super chat. Please donate to his mom. I mean, I really, really would appreciate that. I don't need that. He's an amazing guy. James Tape Damage, Esparza, and just like you, Joe, just like all the lawyers I know, I feel like I am completely blessed to be able to walk in such great company, and I consider James to be a really amazing young man. So
in that sense, LawTube, in the broad definition, is a fairer description of it, because it's not possible without all the help that we get from so many different people. So, but I'm glad you came up with the whole GiveSendGo thing, because a lot of people see GFM and all they can think is GFY. So
right, and I totally understand that. That's why I told him, please, do both, because it's not about that, and I hate getting caught up in that mess, because like you just said, his mother could suffer because of GoFundMe and their actions and not get any help. So getting alternatives, maybe will make a difference. Let me see. I don't know this one. Did he ever find Perry the Platypus? Much appreciate you.
I don't know what that means even.
Yeah, I don't know the context. I apologize. Andrew Young, there are people grifting on this trial. All the writers who say she had a mountain of evidence without sharing context or are filling their pockets with the despair of real DV victims who trusted.
True.
I would argue that that is actually the root of this case. Is Amber Heard was benefiting off of true victims, and that is why they're so angry. My inbox is filled with angry victims, and they have every right. And I'm not going to only say victims, because a lot of them will point out they're survivors, and that is something that I tripped up on, because I haven't suffered this and I haven't been directly around it. I try to be empathetic and understanding, but I'm not going to pretend to say, oh, I know about it. But I've interviewed a lot of cult experts and some cult people who were in cults, who have escaped from cults, on my EricHunley channel. And I was corrected by one of them when I said, I'm sorry you're a victim of the cult. She said, no, I'm a survivor. I'm a cult survivor. And I like that. And I do see where there may be a journey where somebody may have been a victimized and a victim, but over time they are a survivor. And ultimately they could be a warrior. And I want to respect wherever anybody is on their path and just say, I salute you.
Indeed. I salute them too. As I too am a part of a cult right now myself. So
well, there you go.
I stream every night, and I've decided to break up that my weekend streams are referred to as being viewers' discretion, which is something that I felt like I should have permanently affixed to like my forehead, that viewers' discretion is advised. That before you sit down with me, just viewers' discretion is advised. And that inspired me to during the week, it's a little bit less raw, and that I call the following program. So my members got taken to be calling followers. So basically anyone who is members, and I say I'm certainly not the leader, I'm just a follower myself. So we're all just followers. And I
love that. Emily I would credit a lot for doing that with Law Nerds.
It's not a cult though. It's not a cult.
No. It's a gathering. It's like a fan. It's like Deadheads, or
There's community, there's unity, and personal growth. That's basically and whoever's the newest member becomes the de facto leader. That they lead us. That's the person who's the right person to lead us. It's a great group. I love my chat. Awesome. Yeah, I love my chat. They're amazing. And the interaction and the community that they feel there. Half the time they talk about things that have nothing to do with what I'm streaming about. I could be talking, like I'll just make a reference to something. Like also I'll make a reference to whatever, an episode of Friends, and in passing. And like 20 minutes later, I'll be going on and on about the Supreme Court case, and my whole chat is arguing, whether Ross and Rachel are on a break. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, that is funny, especially when you're by yourself, because I'll do that sometimes, and I'm looking at the chat. I'm like, am I just sitting here? I'm like, I feel like I'm the television in the background, and the conversation is just left. I'm like, okay, what do I do? Let me just keep talking here. I don't even know if I'm just the radio in the room or what.
Yeah, going exactly. On, but... I am. Someone actually told me, like, when I was streaming for like 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day during trial, someone said I fell asleep listening to Joe and woke up hearing Joe. I have no idea what the hell happened in the last 7 hours. And he's still here. So
go. That's classic. Pondered, I watched a video on the channel Armchair Psychiatrist about the trial and all of the various medical and psych testimonies. 10 out of 10. Excellent.
Nice.
Ben Chu referred to Dennison as a heavy hitter, playing bad guy, JD Cross. That's very cool.
I was just before you move on, I just want to clarify, because a lot of people took issue with the fact that I rated Dennison as being poor, and this is what really, really bothered me about him. This is where he first started very much bothering me. When he had Dr. Hughes on the stand, and he's crossing, I thought he was great with Dr. Curry, phenomenal on direct with some of the experts, but on cross. The thing that I smelled as a fellow New Yorker, someone who understands I understand the liberal elitist mentality of the rich New Yorkers, okay? And I smelled about her, and what he was dancing around and never really nailed down was that this was a woman who decided, even though she understands intellectually that there's such a thing as a male victim, that she has never, ever, ever once testified
that a male was a victim of a female in a domestic violence situation. And
I was frustrated by that.
And he's trying to get that out of her. And she's like, no, I stood up for in this homosexual relationship. This guy was a victim. So I have defended victims. And he's like, no. And I said that women are aggressors in this lesbian relationship. But he never once got her to admit that when you see a heterosexual relationship, every single time you find that the male is the abuser and the woman is the victim. And that is something which was essential to basically, as soon as you get her to admit that, fine. And that's what you concluded over here yet again.
I would have argued, and you could correct me on it. Again, I'm not the lawyer. Mm-hmm. I would have been impressed if he just asked that one question.
And sat down.
Yeah.
Yes.
And literally nothing else. Because everything else of hers was self-serving and just seemed dumb.
Yes. And I actually said, if he did that, I would have looked at him as if he was like one of the greatest attorneys I've ever seen. It's the one question, the one nugget, and he danced around it, and then he went to other areas. And I thought she was so ripe to have her head sliced off. I described Camille Vasquez's decimation of Amber Heard as if she was like some sort of like ninja who had her two katanas, and you heard the swing as she cut Amber Heard's head off. And I was like, you know what? She stuck her head out there and was waiting for it. A lot of attorneys could have done it, and she did it. So
I was thinking a fencer. I think a fencer in a way, because it's like stab. Boom.
Okay.
Damn,
that's
stab.
fine.
You know,
and that is what she did.
She
kept. Yeah, it's like one stomach hit, heart hit, neck hit. Yeah, she just kept hitting her.
And kind of dancing around, let her think she's still fighting, but then another.
Oh my god! Yeah, and another. Yeah. It's actually, I had potentially criminal Sean on my show on my stream when we were watching that, and and Camille was dressed in white, and he's like, look at all the blood that's covering that white suit. It was great. Yeah. So and what I felt was that Dr. Hughes had stuck her head out just as far, but that no one knows it, because Dennison did, relative to what Camille did, what he did was such a completely
he did it with Spiegel too, though. He did do it with Spiegel. He cut him up pretty well, and that was weird.
Yeah, and with Spiegel, to be fair, I was in court on that day, and it was very hard to appreciate how bad Spiegel looked, because the gallery is so far back. That room is gigantic. It doesn't look like it when you're looking on TV. That courtroom is enormous. Like it feels like when I'm sitting on this side of the room, the jury's on that side of the room. It felt like they were 100 yards away from me. I'm sitting there. I'm like, is that a black woman? Is that a white woman? I'm like sitting. That's how far away. Like it's. I mean, I have terrible eyes, but I'm saying is that's how far away they are. I'm sitting here. I'm supposed to gauge facial reactions from people who I can barely see. That it was frustrating. And my point is that when Spiegel was up on the stand, so he's blocked from my angle. I couldn't even see him because Dennison is standing between me and Spiegel. I can't see anything of what Spiegel is saying. Or his facial reactions. I had no idea he's sitting there making these weird, like sort of like things. And afterwards, I didn't see any of it live. I'm sitting in the courtroom. I couldn't see any of it. So,
oh man, it was weird.
Yeah, he was definitely better. He was definitely better at cutting up Spiegel for sure. So look, maybe that's why people saw the Spiegel thing, and I didn't get to appreciate it as much because I was in the courtroom compared to what I saw on TV, which left me very frustrated. But I want you to know your insight, your thought. I had the exact same thought. I was like, just ask that one question and just sit down. Let the jury know that's the only. You want to know why that's effective? Why you thought of that and why you realized it was so effective? Because then you're telling the jury that's all that matters. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. All that matters is that this is a doctor who every time she sees a heterosexual relationship, she will assume that the man is the abusive one and the woman is the victim and tune out everything else. And that's why
I'm saying everything else is irrelevant. It's like, I don't even care. Yeah, talk. Wait,
everything
that's all
else
garbage.
is irrelevant because this was a conclusion you walked into with. Maybe you could follow up with one last question. So this was a conclusion that you started with before you spent 10 minutes with Amber Heard, isn't it? And she'd say, that's not true at all. Nothing further. Thank you. Sit down. Boom. Mm-hmm. It's like it's so dismissive. That way you're just like dismissing her as being a waste of everyone's time. And I think that would have been so freaking lethal. And instead he danced around and never even got that question out. It was very
I know, I was going crazy. Okay, I have not watched the Vasquez interview in Spanish. Rob speaks some Spanish, and I know I think he said he's rusty on our show last night, but he definitely has watched it and had praise.
I don't speak Spanish, so.
Let's see. Does Rogers know Judge? Sorry, that's a
Natalie question.
I've really got to hammer them about this, because not being able to bring up, I was not going to cover people during this stream with the super chats, because it's bad enough trying to get it in, but then just sit there and cover them. And then it was like sorting people around. I've got to talk about that too, because on StreamYard, to its credit, I could just move boxes around. It'll just realign. But here I have to literally move this over, move that down, move around. And that was tedious. So I've got a line in there, and I work with them. I'm like, I don't care. Call it the pain in the ass Eric mode. Call it the crybaby mode. Call it anything you want, but give me that ability. Go on StreamYard, look at what they're doing, and copy it, because that drives me bonkers to not be able to sort it. So anyway, I shouldn't complain about the tools. I should be able to work around the tools and be a better person, but unfortunately not.
No. It helps them, because they're still sorting out their system and trying to figure it out. By the way, this situation you're dealing with right now with the whole, when do I bring up super chats, and how do I deal with like significantly larger super chats that come up in the middle versus smaller ones? You know, because you feel like if someone's shelling out $50 or $100 on a super chat, like, are you really going to make them wait an hour before you actually address it? That seems like someone who's being so generous with you sort of feel like you're being a jerk. So it's a very tough thing that I also have struggled with. What I've borrowed from Nick, where he's like, all right, $20 and up, it means you're trying to get my attention. So I'll pull those up right away. And anything below that, it's going to come when we have a break and we have an opportunity to actually start getting to them. And I think people come to expect that at a certain point based on how they've seen that handled that way. So I struggle also with the $2 ones, because sometimes when I'm going through super chats and then some $2 ones come up. So in StreamYard, they don't show the $2 ones. They'll show you the $5, $20 ones. But if the chat is moving, they won't show you the blue $2 ones. It never pops up at all. So you have to go through all the chats and make sure you didn't miss a blue one. Otherwise, you end up missing a couple, and people get mad. And I understand it. If I spend money on a super chat, I get annoyed that I never get to see it.
Well, and I know this is boring for people who really couldn't care less about, how the mechanics work. But there are some who do, and I'm going to share my screen. I'm upgrading you to a co-host. Ooh. So you can see why one element I love about this software, and if everything else gets done, it will never leave my hands. It separates super chats automatically, every single one.
That is great.
That just that right there. It has starring as well.
What is this? Oh my God, that's gay.
But this one's cool.
Oh, that's not bad. That is kind of cool.
So yeah. There's a lot of options, and again, you can move it around. And you know how you said this one's gay. It is and it's not, because like if you want to feature somebody, like I want to feature you, right? I can shrink down like this.
Oh, that's
and then shift and blow you up. So it's got
that is pretty cool.
This is like taking OBS and putting it into a web platform. So those elements I love. The problem is it's so fully customizable there that I need some of the dead simple simplicity but aspects mode too. And then I can have different scenes. Like, okay, this is my fancy scene. This is my, easy move around scene, especially because I have a lot of moving parts.
Can you share more than one screen at a time?
Yeah. If you look below, because you're a co-host, you'll see that I have two screens that I'm sharing right now.
Oh, that's very, very. That's one thing streaming doesn't allow, which is actually very frustrating.
There we go.
Yeah, that's very handy. That's very, very handy.
Yes, and I can share different types too. I can share a different browser. I can share an application of 2 different browsers and videos.
I understand why you like this. I understand.
So it's like I'm going through the growing
moving background. You have the moving background also, which is
I can't do that on StreamYard.
Yeah.
So just go to Wave. Go to EricHunley.com/wave, Joe, and get your own copy. They have a free version.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. I'm not a fan of Marilyn Manson music, but grew to respect him after his 2001 interview with Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, I think that Marilyn Manson in some ways reminds me of the guy from Twisted Sister who did a mic drop on Congress. Some of the best congressional testimony ever, when he went in there talking about the music and everything and deliberately wore his full, bit with the torn jeans and looked just completely disrespectable, and then came in just with total knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Nice to see Joe actually be a follower. There you go. Sorry, you're playing catch up with the video. I'm playing catch up with you, so don't worry about it, Misty.
Yeah.
Maybe you did catch up. Tom Mesereau. Yeah, I could not remember the guy's name, but he did a good job. From one.
Good job to Chico remembering that.
As a Wisconsinite, thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Natalie.
She really had so much grace. She had so much class in the way she handled some of those questions.
Oh yeah, definitely. Fun fact: Marcia Clark's also an excellent novelist.
Hey, K-Bragg. K-Bragg is a follower.
Cool. She's a what? Oh, cool.
She's not just a follower. She became the first follower to actually throw out a super chat, which just blew my mind. I was like, wow, I never thought of that before. And she was the queen follower. She was the queen at the time. I was like, this is why she's our leader, because she comes up with great insights. So, yeah.
I remember the days, Joe, when you couldn't get monetized, when you were you were on here during that time. But I remember the days when it was like Joe saying, "Do me a favor, just write the word super."
Yes, yes, yes. I was like, if you want my attention, just write in all caps the word super chat, and I'll know to address those. I was talking to 30 people at a time, and I did that for 3 months, 4 months. It was every night talking to 30 or to 50 people at a time. And never getting above the first time I crossed over having 100 people watching me, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, why are so many idiots watching me? But
it's overwhelming.
That was a year ago. That was literally a year ago.
No, I remember. I remember Joe with the bad camera, Joe with the bad lighting, Joe with the bad sound. I remember a lot of Joe.
Yeah.
Well, okay. In fairness, I'm the second guy who brought you on. I think after Nick.
You are the second one. In fact, I was begging you for months.
Come on now.
Shot. And I was like, I don't want to be annoying to this guy. At one point you said, hey, maybe I'll have you on. And I was like, let's do it. And nothing happened for 3 weeks. I was like, so you want to do it? He's like, yeah, I can. Let me see. I don't know. He's like, and 3 weeks later, I was like, so when are we going to do that whole stream thing, please? Mm-hmm. No. But you were really nice about it the whole time. But I was wondering. There was a point where I was wondering. I was like, I think he's blowing me off. I'm not sure if he is or not. So,
part of the problem is that this is fortnightly, because I have a day job.
Right.
So it's kind of like, if you catch me after today, for example, I'm not going to be able to have you on a stream, for this one for 2 weeks, and it's that on internet time. That's a freaking year.
Yeah, and what was funny about for those of you who missed it, which is probably everyone ever, I was actually on with you and Viva, and Nick Ricada was there, and I think Nate was the fourth one. And I had and 2 weeks earlier, I was actually saying it was my dream to actually meet. My goal by the end of the year was to meet Viva Frei, because he was my inspiration to get on. And 2 weeks later, you made that a reality. And he was so nice to me, because my camera was stopping and I was 15 second delay on everything. And I'd start talking and no one would hear me. And the conversation would move off into left field while I was talking. And he's pointing down at me. He's going, Joe, everyone stop. Joe, let Joe talk. He was really, really great. He was really awesome.
He's the nicest dude.
Yeah.
Police need to rethink their policy and accepting anonymous text messages to go SWAT. Yes. I totally agree. I mean, there's obviously a problem. They need to look at their situation.
Yeah, that is actually.
Let me see. Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm happy to just be around the great minds. I don't know if I'm gathering or I'm just lucky enough to stumble in the room, but I'm very happy to know them all. LawTube is like the bar Cheers. People show up willingly and it's friendly, entertaining. Yes. I really believe in that, and I believe in the spirit, and I think it's perfect. Okay, Wendy says, you're wrong, Joe. They're part of the board collective. You are assimilating them.
Resistance is futile.
Okay, in France, broadcast of trials comes after the appeal is over, never live. Reviewed by the public without live interference. That's something. It's like, let's take different steps on the way. Like the classroom question that people brought up. I was thinking it could be like uniform cameras for cops. I'm not watching cops all day long live.
Right.
But we have a record and we can audit.
Exactly.
And we can pull any time of the day. I mean,
Exactly.
This digital film is nothing. I mean, it's nothing for space. And you can just collect it. And then if there's a question, you can say, let's go to the video.
Hey,
pretend it's the NFL.
And 3 months after it's recorded, you could have erasing everything and just having copying over, because after 3 months, presumably, if there's been no incidents, you can sort of move on from it, and boom. And that way, there's just if there's a need to know what happened in a classroom, let's say a teacher did something wrong with respect to how they dealt with a student. Let's say it, or how they, wouldn't you want? And it's going to be he said, she said thing. Don't you think that video evidence would be really, really important there? It's astonishing to me that there was as much brushback on it, but Peter was really bothered by it. And I'd love to have more of a conversation with him, but I felt like I was going to take over the conversation.
Oh yeah, that was hard. I stepped on him because of Rob, and I knew there was a time you think, oh God, dude, go run panels. Tough. No, I was going to say run some panels. This is a whole different art.
It really is.
And everybody, obviously, it's like, do you want to step on Emily? Do you want to step on Viva? It's kind of look. I'm the lowest factor here, guys. I know that.
And when it comes to Emily, she and I are both very alpha personalities. So she and I will always just jump in and start talking at the same time. I find more than any other panelists that she and I will end up start talking about something at the exact same time. And invariably, I'm going to end up deferring to her for a number of reasons. First and foremost, because, well, she's probably smarter than I am. Yeah, she's a woman, so I feel like it's courteous to sort of let her go. There is enough of chivalry in me where I'm just like, all right, you know what, you go. And then there's also, she's probably smarter than me, so okay, I'll defer there. But I find sometimes she and I I was when I was first getting in panels, she was the one that I really struggled with the most, and now she's one she's one of the top 5 that I enjoy the most easily, because
you found a rhythm.
So fiery. Yeah, we found a rhythm with each other where I really love just
no, you found your own rhythm, dude. Go watch your old videos. Compare your performance then versus now and interact. I mean, it's I know I have a ton to learn, but I'm a million times better than I was a year ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And getting to know the people, you can feel like, oh, they're about, and you can back off or go in or say, okay, they're winding down. I've heard them 50 times and I kind of can tuck in here a little, but there's the flip side to it, man. I've been on with a couple of guests before, and I'm so used to Barnes. I mean, Barnes, I say one, all I have to say is Justice Thomas, and I've got an entire thing flowing. I could do it, David.
8 minutes, he'll go.
Right, and I know that, and I'm used to it. So I get it with a couple, really high power people. I'm not going to name them because it's not their fault. And I'll say something, and I realize they don't say a word. And why? I didn't ask them directly. I didn't, I'm going to say Bill and Pete, okay, just for giggles. I didn't say, and I think that this is a crazy thing, Bill.
Right.
I don't do that. Because I'm so used to you guys. I'd be like, well, I mean. What about this case over such and such? As somebody's going to jump in, and then you forget that when you're with other people. So that's a whole
that's
different
what happens.
Crazy.
That's what happens when you have 6 lawyers. It's basically like, okay, this mic is mine. You go away. That's what you have. That's what you have there with have 5 different litigators on at the same time. So,
and I've gotten used to that. So I'm in the habit of just let me throw it up. It just it's like it's like a crocodile. Bunch of crocodiles in the water and a chicken, and I'm throwing that out there. See, notice I didn't use sharks. That's classy of me. So the crocodiles in the water, I throw a chicken out, and it's like somebody's going to jump up and grab that chicken.
Oh yeah,
I don't have to worry about it.
You'll see a pair. Yeah, you'll see a couple pairs of claws just going at each other. Give me that chicken. That's my chicken.
Joe is my leader. Wendy's Cafe she's everywhere, and I adore her.
She is great.
Awesome.
Wendy's Cafe is awesome.
All right. I submitted motion yesterday with irrefutable evidence of court's establishment of religion, county court change of jurisdiction. Not one honorable. I'm a Quaker. Joe, want to peek at it? That's a good one. Oh, D. Snyder.
That sounds like you're really asking me for legal advice, doesn't that? I mean, I know I made a joke earlier. That
maybe
was a joke.
if it's not a joke. I mean, maybe it's. I don't know. I'm sure. Yeah, Joe's on Twitter. Nearman Joe.
I am on Twitter.
Try tweeting out.
Thank you, Frankie.
Joe is awesome. Thank you,
Frankie. Frankie, I DM'd you. I owe Frankie Sherratt a hat, and the other day, like she asked me in a super chat, "Where's my hat?" And I owed her for like a month. I felt like crap, and I was like, "I'm stopping everything now and buying her hat." And I had her DM me, and then the last conversation. This is not on me. Is she DM'd me her address for where to send it to, and I was like, "Hey, when I put in the address you gave me, it inserts the word East in front of your street. Is that the right address? Like, on Amazon, like, how they give you the automated address." So I was like, "Is that the right address, or is that going to end up like, and you hope it's somewhere?" So, and I haven't heard back. So Frankie, please let me know. I need to cross this thing off. It's bothering me now. So please let me know. And DM, just so I end up sending it. I know that it's going to end up in the right hands. So
you've hit him deep in his conscience. And now he will not be able to sleep. He's going in Sabbat with this hanging over him.
If the truth is, like, if I make a commitment, I'm like, no, I'm honoring this commitment. Like, it bothers me to ever come across as if, like, I'll just say crap and then not. I don't pledge and not donate. That bothers me. So if I pledge, I'm gonna yeah. I've learned the distinction between those two words. So
all right, well, that actually got through, believe it or not.
Beautiful.
Super chats. And Joe, thank you very much for hanging out.
Oh, my pleasure.
I do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And as far as everybody else, and because I appreciate it so much, I can't do the
regular.
Yeah, I can't do the regular thing.
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. Why? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
So,
I'd be offended if you wouldn't.